Welcome to part 16 of What If Kami sends Naruto back in time to fix his mistakes. Please remember to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always link to the fanfiction is in the description. Chapter 46 I'm sorry. Naruto woke up aboard the transport ship in a modest bed that was way too full. He didn't even need to open his eyes to know who was sharing the small bed with him. He felt Samui's breasts over his crotch as her head lay on his abdomen. Temari was snuggled into his right side while his right arm was numb and hanging off of the bed. His left arm was likewise occupied by Ino, and this ball of flesh all rested on a standard bed, which was no bigger than a twin. He kept his eyes closed and offered a grateful prayer to Kami. Moments later Naruto appeared in front of Kami's office desk, and Naruto smiled as he saw his mother and father working on paperwork. The goddess of creation had a pouty frown on her face as she looked down on Naruto. The goddess continued doing paperwork without looking at it while her golden orbs peered into the depths of Naruto's soul. "Do you know what you have done, Ruto?" Kami's tone definitely carried a pout, which sounded exotic and sweet to Naruto's ears. Naruto sighed and bowed lowly to Kami. "I am sorry, milady." Kushina scoffed, "I am sorry for sending over 4,000 souls to the pure world in one day." Minato chuckled sheepishly as he worked on the paperwork at a fervent pace. "Well, he blew away my old record." Kushina and Kami glared at a now sheepish Minato who poured all of his attention into the papers in front of him. Kami coughed and looked down on the bowed Naruto. "Ruto, you must be more careful with your powers. I know you didn't intend for that level of destruction, but it was nearly on a divine scale. Your power over the earth and sky are too great for you to carelessly call upon their full power." Naruto chuckled sheepishly while still bowed. "I wasn't thinking about the consequences, milady. I saw my friends, and lovers, hurt, and I just wanted to dissuade them from attempting something like that again. I wanted to finish the fight, if it were possible." Kami sighed. "Well, it is not over. Madara's soul was resurrected this morning. It seems like Obito didn't want to wait any longer." Naruto sighed. "I tried to stop it. I knew that Obito getting the Rinnegan would result in something like this." Kushina slammed her pen on the desk. "Look, Sochi, you can handle Madara. I am more upset about you killing so many. I am sorry, mother. It was not my intention. I only want a peaceful world, and each of those people bore nothing but hatred for myself and those I love." Naruto answered seriously. "Oh, rise and stop bowing, Ruto," Kami said sternly. "Going forward, I will ask you to restrain yourself more. If you do not, then I will need to apply the godly rules to you." "Godly rules?" Naruto asked with his head cocked to the side. "Yes, that would mean that you are no longer allowed to reside in the mortal realm. I know you do not desire that, and I recently put a piece of myself in that mortal form, and you have yet to take me on a date." Kami ended in a pouty tone. "My apologies, milady. I will keep that in mind, and I will take you on a date upon my return to Konoha." Naruto answered in his sheepish pose. "Very well, your apology is accepted. Now, go back and clean up your mess. I have paperwork to attend to." Kami said despondently. "Bye Sochi," Kushina said. "Be safe, my son," Minato added before Naruto's consciousness returned to the mortal realm. Naruto awoke in his bed and closed his eyes to enter his mindscape. He saw Kurama and Chome sleeping peacefully in their Biju forms, and he left them to their rest. He reopened his eyes and placed kisses on the foreheads of Ino and Temari. The shifted roused a sleepy Samui, and she pulled herself up to receive a good morning kiss. After the girls were properly greeted, they allowed him to get out of the bed. They watched with hungry stares as he stretched in his boxers, which provided a scrumptious show that highlighted the wonders of the male anatomy. "Damn, Ruto, I am so glad that yummy body is mine," Temari teased while approaching him from behind as she ran her hands up and down his abdomen. "Not cool, Mari. Those are my pillows." Samui pouted and joined her in smothering Naruto. Ino whined with a pouty lip. "Don't forget me. You two can have the abs, I want this," she said as she grabbed his rod through his boxers. Naruto fell into the embrace of his girls, and he struggled to resist the temptation. Hell, he is still human, and he could no longer resist. He erected a privacy barrier over the room, and the whole ship was awoken by the violent, yet rhythmic, rocking of the ship. The rocking lasted for over an hour and very grumpy groans could be heard from the deck of the ship where people were gathering to find out what was going on. After the four's lust was sated, they hopped in the shower before heading to the ship's deck to see a collection of allied shinobi. Naruto yawned and stretched his arms, which put on a show for the women on deck. "Good morning y'all. What's going on? Why is everyone up this early in the morning?" Darui shot him a deadpan look and then yawned, "You bothersome blonde. Of course, it was you that was rocking the damned boat." Naruto cocked his head to the side in confusion and Shikamaru spoke up. "You troublesome bastard. Your activities rocked the boat and woke everyone up. You woke my lazy ass up early after a battle. You trouble-filled troublesome blondes." Shikamaru's volume continued to rise through his rant. Everyone was now looking at the blonde foursome with wide eyes. The girls were drooling at the thoughts of Naruto ravaging them in such a passionate way. The guys were imagining themselves in bed with the three blonde bombshells. At that moment, Tsunade opened the door to the ship cabins and stepped out on deck. She sipped some coffee and shot a wry look at the foursome. "You get your morning dose, ladies?" she asked while hiding her smirk behind her coffee cup. The statement earned a hilarious uproar of comments and innuendos from the allies that could no longer restrain themselves. A couple of the more perverted men blew back with nosebleeds as their suspicions were confirmed and their imaginations went into overdrive. The kunoichi squealed like fangirls and surrounded Ino, Tamari and Samui for the hot gossip on Naruto's prowess. Who can blame them? They guy literally rocked the boat while tending to his women. After that nonsense was settled, Naruto looked out over the edge of the ship and saw tents set up around the area. The tents were erected in between the town and the port and Naruto could see hundreds of samurai gathered in the town. Evidently tensions were high and there was still some things that needed to be settled between Iron Country and the shinobi villages. Naruto nodded his head to the samurai and asked Tsunade a question. "Mama, what's the status with the samurai?" Tsunade thought over her answer as she sipped her coffee. "Well, brat, they aren't happy. You destroyed their landmarks, we destroyed their port and your final jutsu leveled almost every tree from the village to the border. Also, the wind blast damaged the village a bit and the citizens were forced to endure a massive battle right in the midst of the home without their permission." Naruto nodded with a small frown on his face. "I don't blame them for that." "What about Mifune?" Tsunade sighed. "We have tried telling the samurai that he is under Akatsuki's control. He was unconscious outside the fort that we met at, or our clones met at. Luckily, the second in command took charge and hasn't ordered them to attack. It seems like they just want us out." Naruto shook his head in the negative. "No, I am not going to leave them with this mess. It might take a while, but I will help them rebuild. I don't want grudges growing for no reason." The Kage each looked at one another and nodded. It was I that spoke for the group. "Very well, we will help them rebuild and keep a disaster relief contingent here to assist you." Naruto beamed a smile at the Kage before his face got serious. "Good, now I need you all to know that the real Madara Uchiha was revived this morning. Based on what I know, he won't be at full power yet, but he is a massive threat. Everyone should call me immediately if he shows up and every shinobi squad should flee on sight if they see him." A stunned silence followed these words until Itachi cleared his throat. "Ruto, are you saying that the Madara Uchiha is back?" Naruto nodded. "Yes, I was pulled into Kami's realm this morning. She was kinda mad that I made so much paperwork for her yesterday." This comment broke the tension and earned sweat drops from each Kage. "You mean you killing all those people created paperwork for the goddess?" Mei asked while cocking her head. Naruto sighed loudly. Yeah, it did. I didn't know my last jutsu was going to be so destructive. I thought I would kill a couple hundred and scare the crap out of them. I didn't expect such a wide area of effect. Brat, you fell from the sky like a comet, and you had a dragon chasing you," Tsunade deadpanned. Naruto chuckled sheepishly and scratched the back of his neck. "Oh, haha, you saw that. You looked like a falling star," Mei said dreamily. "Then that earthquake and windstorm hit," Raza deadpanned. "No doing that in my country, bud." I snorted through his laughter. He respected power and he was mighty jealous of the power that was displayed yesterday. "Since when could you fly, Ruto?" Itachi asked the question that had been on his mind for a while. Naruto's laughter halted abruptly. "Oh, haha, well it was a trick I learned on my way to Demon Country. The Kyuubi lets you fly. I asked with interest. Yeah, I guess. I am going to go talk to the samurai. Itachi, was Shisui part of the reinforcements? We need someone to break the mind control on Mifune. Naruto avoided further questioning and tried to redirect. Yes, he should be around. I will send for him and have him join you, Itachi said while caught off guard by the abrupt change in conversation. The group of Kage watched Naruto dart off towards the group of samurai with inquisitive looks on their faces. Each one of them had their own questions and each one of them knew that Naruto was hiding something. So, naturally, they turned to Tsunade for answers. Lady Tsunade, why did Naruto get so dodgy all of a sudden? Mei asked while tapping a finger to her lower lip. It was unlike that brat to act so, well, dodgy, thanks for the word, Lady Mizukage. I added while frowning at the disappearing visage of Naruto. Itachi sighed, he is clearly hiding something from us. Care to share, Lady Tsunade? Tsunade averted her eyes and cursed under her breath. Look, the kid has a lot of secrets. When it is time for you to know, you will know. Ai's mind caught up to a couple of the facts that hadn't aligned yet and his eyes widened. He turned towards Tsunade with a look on his face that demanded a serious answer. It has something to do with the missing Biju, doesn't it? This clicked the light bulb on in Mei's mind and she snapped her fingers. The only Biju that is known to give flight was the seven-tailed horned beetle. Tsunade groaned, look, wait for the brat to get back. He will need to talk to you all soon anyways. I will tell him to come clean. Tsunade crossed her arms under her bust and she zipped her lips in defiance of the expectant gazes of the Kage. And you expect us to be okay with that, Tsunade? Mei asked pointedly. Itachi sighed loudly and rubbed his eyes. Look, we are dealing with Kami's chosen. Hell, I didn't even believe in Kami until a couple months ago. So, why don't we all wait to grill him together and get the answers out of him? The Kage nodded to that and went to resume their work. With Naruto, Shisui and the samurai captain. Naruto approached the samurai slowly because he could feel how on edge they were. The samurai captain stepped in front of his men and placed a hand on the hilt of his sword, which made Naruto hold his hands up in surrender. I am not looking for a fight. I am Naruto Senju Uzumaki. I am looking to speak with your leader and offer my assistance in making up for the damage caused by the battle yesterday. Naruto kept his tone steady and professional. He noticed the uneasy shifting of the samurai behind the captain. The samurai captain offered a slight bow, but his tone was saturated with frustration. It is an honor to meet you, Naruto Senju Uzumaki. I am Tetsubo, the second in command of the samurai. Lord Mifune is indisposed from injuries he suffered yesterday when your shinobi fought on our lands. Naruto scratched the back of his neck sheepishly. Yeah, well, I am sorry about that for what it is worth. There was an unannounced Kage, the Kage of a Megacore, at the meeting. Then Lord Mifune was being controlled by the Uchiha that is a leader of the Akatsuki. They tried to lock the Kage into the room and threatened them, but I sensed the trap, so they destroyed shadow clones. He used his most genuine tone in an attempt to bring the samurai to his side. Tetsubo looked skeptically at Naruto. You claim Lord Mifune did something so dishonorable. Naruto put a sad smile on his face. Yeah, he did. I know it was out of character for him and that was the first thing that clued me into him being controlled. I am also a prolific sensor and I sensed foreign chakra in his system. That is why I brought Shisui with me. Tetsubo seemed to think things over for a bit, and he talked to two of his trusted captains. He turned back to Naruto with a hardened look on his face. And why should we trust you? That Uchiha there could put him under his control just as easy as remove any possible genjutsu. Naruto shrugged, is my reputation not enough? Have you not heard how I am helping many countries throughout the elemental nations? Tetsubo looked at the two again and exchanged a small nod with them. Yes, we have heard. Then I am asking to cash in a little of that credibility. I ask you to let me help Lord Mifune and to undo the damage that was done to your country yesterday. Naruto said modestly while bowing. Tetsubo was a true samurai that operated around the core tenets of honor, integrity, discipline and inner strength. He could respect the humility and sincerity of the boy in front of him and his shoulders slackened slightly, and his facial features softened. Very well, Naruto Senju Uzumaki, we will accompany you to Lord Mifune's resting chambers. We ask that you turn over any weapons and swear to return them to you once the meeting is finished. Naruto pulled off his sealing kit and undid his vest and handed it straight to Tetsubo. All of my weapons are sealed. I cannot do anything about the seals on my body, but I swear on the honor of the Uzumaki and Senju clans that I will not bear any weapon towards your lord. Shisui removed his katana from the clip on his belt and also removed the shuriken and kunai holsters on his waist. He offered them to the two samurai captains with a slight bow. I as well swear on the honor of the Uchiha that I bear no ill will towards your country or lord. Tetsubo nodded with a smile on the fringe of his lips. Good, now let us go to Lord Mifune. As quick 5-minute walk through the samurai village took them to the largest building in the village. It had a circular structure that was nearly 400 feet in diameter, and it was made out of wood. There were 4 guards at the front entrance being warmed by fires. Naruto walked over to the fires after forming a couple hand seals and topped off the timber in the fires. This earned nods of gratitude from the samurai guarding the building. Tetsubo led them through the building and into a room that had 2 more samurai stationed outside of it. Upon entering, Naruto saw Mifune laying on the bed with his head wrapped in bandages and blood was starting to show through the bandages. He was sleeping and Naruto saw that his vitals were stable from the machine he was hooked up to. He turned to address the nurse and Tetsubo, who was still trailed by the 2 samurai captains. Captain Tetsubo, I am a medic trained by Lady Tsunade Senju. I am going to activate a jutsu and I ask for your patience and trust. Naruto said calmly, which earned a nod from Tetsubo. Naruto closed his eyes and clapped his hands in a prayer motion before he flared into his golden sage mode. His coils burned and protested the increased flux of chakra from yesterday's damage, but he was still able to hold the form and calm the chakra. The samurai's eyes widened at the display of power, but the serene feeling of the chakra stayed their hands. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, and it took all of their discipline and professionalism to keep their jaws from hitting the floor. Naruto activated a healing jutsu and started at Mifune's head. While there, he inserted his senjutsu chakra to fight against the control of the genjutsu and heal the wounds to the head. The wounds healed rapidly, but even his senjutsu chakra couldn't dispel the effects of the Koto Amatsukami. He continued to move down and heal the small bits of damage done to Mifune's body before he backed away and turned to address his audience. Captain Tetsubo, if you would trust me once more, I wish to show you what I feel when I analyzed Lord Mifune. He is undoubtedly under the effects of a strong genjutsu that is unique to the Uchiha clan. Naruto held out his hand to Tetsubo, who remained frozen on the spot for 10 seconds before slowly reaching out to grab Naruto's hand. With the physical link to Tetsubo, it was child's play for him to show the captain the obvious signs of a genjutsu. The feeling of Mifune's normal chakra flow flared erratically once Naruto moved his hand over Mifune's head. Tetsubo removed his hand after feeling the eerie effect and Naruto watched the man recoil in disgust. This is why the samurai refused to trust the shinobi. They perform such dishonorable acts and act as if the people of the world are merely collateral damage. Tetsubo's disgust rapidly transitioned into a justified rage. Naruto calmly held his hands up and radiated a positive energy with his chakra. He allowed Tetsubo to feel his earnest desire to help before speaking calmly. Captain, I understand where you are coming from. That is why I have worked so hard to make the world a better place. Tetsubo fought against the calming effects of the senjutsu chakra, says the man that killed over 1,000 single-handedly yesterday. Tetsubo's tone was derisive. Naruto dipped his head, all evil needs to prosper is for good men to do nothing. Those men and women that I killed yesterday, I carry the weight of their souls with me. They chose to follow men that would lead this world to ruin. I fight every day to preserve it and to guide it into a new age. I understand your feelings, Captain Tetsubo, I simply ask for the opportunity to make amends. Tetsubo couldn't doubt his words, even Shisui was moved by the feel of the senjutsu chakra and the sincerity in his tone. Very well, Lord Senju, what do we need to do? Naruto nodded to Shisui, who cleared his throat and spoke up. My Sharingan has a similar genjutsu ability to the one that was used on Lord Mifune. I will be able to erase the effects of the current genjutsu, but I will need him awake first. Tetsubo nodded slowly, very well. I will allow that once Lord Mifune awakes. Naruto placed a hand on Mifune's foot and sent a jolt of lightning chakra from the pad of his foot and up his leg. With a jolt and a groan, Mifune awoke in his bed. As he opened his eyes, he was greeted by Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan. Everyone heard Shisui whisper, "Kodo Amatsukami," and saw a Sharingan pinwheel appear on the retina of Mifune before it shattered into chakra shards. Mifune shook his head in confusion and took a couple minutes to reorient himself. "Tetsubo, what happened?" Mifune said shakily. "What is the last thing you remember, my lord?" Tetsubo asked. "I was meeting with the Iwa Kage, and I agreed to host a Kage summit to negotiate the prevention of a war," Mifune said with a hand covering his face while he still slowly shook off the confusion. "My lord, that meeting happened 3 weeks ago. Lord Senju informed me that you were under the effects of some Sharingan genjutsu and I allowed Shisui Uchiha to undo the effects," Tetsubo said formally. Mifune's head turned to Shisui as flickers of memories passed through his mind. He dipped his head to Shisui, "Thank you for your assistance in this matter. Now, tell me, I am seeing images of a battle. What did I miss?" Naruto started chuckling while in his sheepish pose. "Well, Lord Mifune, there was a great battle that took place yesterday. Before I fixed up the damage from the battle, I wanted to break the genjutsu that was controlling you." "Ah, Lord Senju, so you aren't just here for more chakra metal?" "No, Lord Mifune, I came here to guard Lord Hokage during the summit and things were about as bad as we expected," Naruto answered while still scratching the back of his neck. Mifune cocked his head slightly. "You expected a battle?" Naruto bowed in apology. "I apologize, Lord Mifune. I hope the talks were genuine, but I suspected treachery and developed countermeasures to protect my Kage and our allies. I transported 150 shinobi via reverse summoning, and we fought against 5,000 shinobi of AIM and Iwa as well as a couple thousand clones of a plant creature." While Mifune was marveling at the boy that survived such a battle, Tetsubo spoke up, "Lord Mifune, the damage to our country was extensive. The Wolf Head Mountains are destroyed, the enemy used a jutsu that turned the rubble into a giant ball that crashed into the ground. Then, Lord Senju used he devastated our border. Tetsu Port is completely destroyed as well." Naruto continued to bow lower and lower in apology until his forehead was touching the ground. "My deepest apologies. I have come to negotiate the repairs and each Kage agreed to support me in restoring Iron Country." Mifune groaned loudly, "Very well, we will accept your help. What can you offer?" Naruto rose from his bow. "I can build new homes and I will clean up the rubble of the mountains and I can create some new ones, if you want them. I can also grow forests or gardens or whatever you want for food. I will completely rebuild your port, I would just request some plans. We will also bring food, metal and other rebuilding supplies as needed." Mifune looked incredulous at Naruto's statement. You can do all of that?" Naruto nodded, "Quite easily. I was also thinking that I will build you a teleportation tower as an apology for turning your lands into a battleground." "Teleportation tower?" Mifune asked with his head cocked to the side. "Imagine my father's Hiraishin except usable by civilians. I have created towers in Konoha, Suna, Kiri, Kumo in each capital. It is my goal to build a tower in each village to link the world, but we are keeping them secret until I have time to make them offers. I ask for your discretion on this," Naruto explained calmly. "So, my traders could travel instantly to any of those locations?" Mifune asked through his stunned mind. "Yes. There are rules and regulations that we are developing, but I can go over those with you in time." Mifune rose from the bed and got to his feet shakily before bowing. "I humbly request your assistance in rebuilding and we will provide any materials needed for the tower. Got 50 kilos of chakra metal on hand?" Naruto asked while giving Mifune a knowing smile. The little blood in Mifune's head fled and his face paled. That was what all of those 50-kilogram orders were for. "Yup," Naruto answered in a chipper fashion while Shisui watched on completely amused. "That will take time to gather, but we will approve the project." He turned to Tetsubo. "Now, for rebuilding, what needs attention first?" "The housing, my lord. The earthquake and windstorm broke quite a few houses," Tetsubo answered. Naruto chuckled sheepishly again. "I didn't know the jutsu I used would be that strong. Take this as an opportunity to get some improved housing for free. Give me a blueprint and I can erect the building in under a minute. You will have to handle any electrical and plumbing though. That is quite generous, Naruto. Please inform the Kage that they are forgiven for the damage caused and we will accept any help they can provide." You may also count us as allies against this Akatsuki organization. Mifune said formally. Naruto beamed a gigawatt smile at Mifune. Thanks, Mifune. I will do that, and we will get you back on your feet shortly. Inquisition of the Kage. Naruto's walk back to the port with Shisui was enjoyable, but that positive atmosphere froze quicker than the icy winds of Iron Country when Kakashi was waiting for him at the entrance to the ship. The ship had turned into a joint command center of sorts, and the look on Kakashi's face set Naruto on edge. Kakashi led Naruto into the captain's quarters that had been readjusted to an open discussion with a circle of chairs. Naruto took his seat and decided to grow a table in the middle of the cage. He was thinking that he probably wanted something to stop Ai from lunging at him. Naruto put on a fake smile and looked around before asking, "So, to what do I owe the pleasure of your summons?" "Cut the shit, Naruto," I said forcefully. "The only reason I am not beating the answers out of you is because I trust you. So, spill. And you don't want Samui beating your ass," Tsunade said through a clearly fake cough. "And he can't, cough, take you, cough." May added through mixture of giggles and a fake cough. AI grew a tick mark over his left temple and slammed his fist on the table. "The brat can take each of you as well. Look, Naruto, come clean on the Biju. That is the only topic that makes you dodgy." Itachi nodded. "Indeed, I think it is time to come clean." Naruto weaved through hand signs and placed his most powerful privacy barrier on the room before his eyes. Turned icy and hard. His jubilant face grew sharper edges and tone cast out all trace of his youthful exuberance. "This does not leave this room." Each cage nodded their heads and Naruto took a deep breath. After defeating Kokuo, I was able to feel his presence in the nature energy around Konoha's stadium. I filtered that energy and drew it into my seal. After a week, Kokuo had enough of his core to begin healing. Kokuo didn't sync with me very well and he requested to be moved into another after he accepted the fact that he couldn't truly be free until the Akatsuki were dealt with. "Tamari," May whispered under her breath and interrupted Naruto. "You put a Biju in your wife." I growled. Naruto nodded. "Yes, Kokuo chose her before I visited Water Country. That was why she didn't join us for that part of our trip, May. She was recovering from the transfer and adapting to Kokuo's yokai. And you thought it appropriate to hide that from us?" May asked while sounding agitated. "Did you see the end? Did you see the fucking end of the world in my memories?" Naruto's tone gained a sharp edge, which caught the cage off guard. "Yes, we did. So what?" I asked, now tensed due to Naruto's anger. After defeating the Akatsuki and freeing the Biju from the Ghetto Mazo, I petitioned the cage to leave the Biju alone. I kept them free and away from human society. Konoha, Iwa and Kumo turned against me because of that and prolonged the war that led to the end of the world. Kiri abstained from the war, but due to the lack of support, the resistance ended up losing. Naruto said while struggling to hold back the emotions attached to those memories. "So what?" I growled. Naruto's eyes flickered red, and he turned his hardened gaze on Ai. "So, I am offering those Biju that I managed to save the same safety. They are under my protection." Itachi held up his hands. "Okay, you two, let's take a step back and calm down. So, you want the Nibi and Hachibi as well?" I growled. Naruto's red eyes flickered back to blue. "Eventually, yes. I do not wish to hoard power, I do not wish to harm B or Yugito. In fact, those two are happy with their Biju partners." Raza shuffled uneasily before speaking in a soft tone. "Then what is it that you want, Ruto?" Naruto took a deep breath and calmed himself before looking around the table and locking eyes with each cage. The Biju to be free and no longer used as weapons of war. To prevent human sacrifices, Jinchuriki, from being created and abused in such a way. Naruto held up his hand in a petition for patience from Ai. The sage created the Biju to ensure that the Jubi couldn't be resurrected. He divided the chakra to protect the world from the Jubi and Otsutsuki clan. In doing so, he hoped that the Biju could partner with humanity and spread Ninshu, a philosophy that chakra should be the thread that binds us together and creates a deeper understanding. May took advantage of Naruto's pause to ask her question. "So, you expect the Kage nations to simply trust you with enough power to conquer the world?" Naruto sighed. "It is because you maintain that mindset that the world is trapped in this endless cycle. 1,800 years of war and destruction have followed the death of the Sage of Six Paths. War robs us of our childhoods, destroys our imagination and perverts our innocence. I grabbed his fist and tried to restrain himself from acting out. Then what would you have us do? Naruto smiled a sad and wistful smile. The Biju should be able to choose their partner and they should be able to have their freedom. Them residing in a human of their choosing mellows them out and helps them grow. The humans they reside in gain understanding and powers to change the natural world. It should be a partnership, not an enslavement. Did you know that Kurama can infuse life energy into earth and make lands fertile? Did you know that Chome can work with the bugs of the world to help create life and prosperity for our ecosystems? Did you know that Kokuo can control the winds and storms that bring water to the thirsty? Did you know that the Hachibi could be used to make lakes and rivers that would help humanity thrive? The Aikibi can control the sands of the desert or soften the ground. The Nibi offers purging flames and power. In short, I am aiming for a regime change like what I have shown you by my own efforts. I use my seals to make life more bearable, I use my jutsu to help as many people as I can, I give my chakra to make the world a better place and I give my blood to fight against injustice. I am not asking anything of you that I am not willingly giving myself 100-fold. Naruto ended his monologue while huffing from his passionate speech. He wasn't going to back down on this. He would fight for Kurama, Yuki, Chome, Seiken, Kokuo, Son Goku, Isobu, Matabi and Shukaku. The cage remained in a stunned silence and were each caught in their own internal reflections for 5 minutes. Silence hung over the room and the only movement was Tsunade taking Naruto's hand. I was thinking about the implications for B and Yugito. His own brother and a woman he considered a niece were two of his shinobi that he cared for and respected. They both had good partnerships with their Biju and that was a source of strength for Kumo in the past. Could he part with that strength? Could he really choose to believe in Naruto? At that internal question, Ai's mind screeched to a halt because the instant answer was yes. Mei was thinking about the devastation caused by war. Her nation knew it too well and it was at the hands of a Jinchuriki that they faced it. Kiri had never been founded on peaceful roots, but she was aiming to change that. She trusted Naruto, she knew that. So, why was she so mad? Why was she upset? Because Naruto hid this from her. Could she blame him for doing so? No, she couldn't and wouldn't blame the child. She wouldn't let him down again. Itachi was thinking about the implications of his students' statements and declared dream. The Biju were forces of nature and it was too risky to leave them untampered by bonds to humanity. Did he trust Naruto with such power? Yes, he thought, but then what? Would he commit Konoha to fighting for Naruto's dream? Would a fight be necessary? It was all too much for his young mind to wrap itself around. Raza was at peace since he had years of first-hand experience of Naruto's profound impact on the world. Naruto had helped him save his nation and he almost single-handedly rescued Suna from the desert. He had no doubt that the boy would do the same for the world, but the only thought that gave Raza reservations was what would happen once he is gone. What would happen to the Biju after his death? Tsunade cleared her throat and broke each cage from their respective musings. She puffed out her chest and put on a proud face. The Biju are creatures of intelligence, pride and majestic power. Since the age of my grandfather, we have imprisoned them against their will. After we started doing that, we have each seen the scars left by their rampages. Now, let's flip the script and you imagine that you were locked away in someone you didn't know, you didn't choose and you were locked in a cage. To make matters worse, your warden took from you every day. What would you do if you managed to see the light of day? What would you do for your freedom? How would your enslavement make you feel towards your captors? Ai's head hung low because his village had suffered the most at the hands of the Biju. Of course, it was his village that had abused the Biju the most in the past. I couldn't begin to sort out the mess that was in his mind, so he asked the question once more. So, what would you have us do? Naruto had used the silence to calm down and he could feel Chome and Kurama watching attentively within the seal. We do what I have done with each of you. Each of you is bound to me in one way or another by an Uzumaki blood contract. Once Akatsuki is dealt with, the leaders of each village will gather and decide if they wish to partake in such a contract. Every future cage will decide if they want to sign the contract. And who would be in charge of such a thing? Mei asked while tapping a finger to her lips. I offer the Uzumaki clan. I offer myself and I will place the strictest restrictions on myself. I accepted Kami's mission to lead this world into a new cycle. I have relationships with 6 of the 9 Biju and I earned the trust of the other 3 in the past. I believe in them, and I believe in peace. Not peace brought by domination or fear, but peace through prosperity. Naruto answered. Another silence followed this because each Kage knew that he was the only viable option. What do you envision the Biju's role in the world to be? Raza asked. Naruto created 2 wood clones for Chome and Kurama. The 2 stood proudly behind each shoulder. We let the Biju choose their partner. The Biju will be allowed freedom from their seals, but they will be partnered to a human of their choice. Both sides of the partnership will consent, and they will work together to make the world a better place. The Biju can take missions that suit their respective talents. We work together to make the world a better place. We can iron out the details later. So, we trust it all to a contract and the Uzumaki clan. I asked incredulously. Naruto shrugged. My clan is bound to Kami and her contracts are absolute. If my own child violated the contract, I would carry out the sentence just as willingly as if it were a perfect stranger. Naruto is right. The Biju cannot even resist the contract's effects. Just think, the Shinigami, a god far less powerful than Kami, was able to split my soul and seal me into immortal. That is not to mention that us Biju are honorable creatures. If we give our word, then that is absolute. As the leader of the Biju, I can tell you that we would enter willingly into this agreement. Kurama said in a proud and stoic tone. You do not want your freedom? Itachi asked. Kurama chuckled and Chome giggled. I know that not every human will be like Naruto. What I will say is that I am more content in my partnership with Naruto than I have been since the moment I was created. My pent-up rage and frustration have abated, and I have grown since I partnered with him. It is my hope that my brethren can find similar bonds. Chome chimed in here. It was never my plan to stay in Naruto, but after he went through his sage training, I don't think I could choose another. I too have grown over the last year, and I would also like to continue this partnership. What about when Naruto dies? He is immortal, so he will eventually die. Raza said. Then I will be free to find another partner. He will watch over me from Kami's realm, I am sure, and I will move on. Kurama answered. And what if you have not found someone worthy? I asked. Kurama adopted a thinking pose and Chome mirrored him for a minute. I have faith. I may always be bound to his kin, but I have faith that any child raised by my partner will be worthy of me. Itachi sighed and lamented. He just can't avoid creating more paperwork. This earned a round of haunted chuckles from the Kage. I punched his right hand into his open left. Alright, well, we have Kami's chosen Super Jinchuriki on our side. Let's end this war and we will get the rest of it figured out in time. No more secrets, Itachi said wearily. No more secrets. Everyone agreed. Somewhere in Iwa, Obito groaned as his eyes cracked open. His whole body flared with a fiery pain as his tenketsu protested the smallest movement. As he soaked in the room around him, he realized that he was still linked to the ghetto Mazo and that there was a long, shaggy, raven-haired man sitting on the other side of the room and glaring at him with empty eye sockets. Obito saw that the white and black Zetsu were talking to Madara and the creature had frozen when Obito awoke. Obito forced through the pain of moving and sat upright to address his master. Lord Madara, I apologize for reviving you prematurely, Obito began. Enough, Obito. Why am I being resurrected now? I can tell that I am strong, but I expected to be stronger. Madara said gruffly. Obito bowed his head. My apologies, Lord Madara, I revived you prematurely and through the use of my own life force. Nagato is dead and we have only captured 3 of the Biju thus far. Madara scoffed. You are disappointing. Zetsu has told me about what the Akatsuki has done and how it failed. It is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's fault. He is stronger than Hashirama was in his prime. He thwarted our plans at every turn. He trained the Aikibi to the point that it is an S-rank ninja. He warned Kumo, and put the 2 and 8 tails out of our reach. He killed the 5 tails himself. He saved the 7 tails from 2 of our agents and killed one of them. Then, the 7-tailed Jinchuriki died. Forgive me, my lord, but I called you back prematurely to ensure the mission didn't totally fail. Obito cried out despondently. HN. Madara said. Give me my eyes and I will train my power back up. You are disappointing, Obito. Make sure you do not fail me again. Chapter 47 Return to Konoha. The time in Iron Country didn't make Naruto's already complicated life any easier. The discovery of Chome and Kokuo went better than he expected, but it created a new host of issues. The presence of Nagato and Konan in New Uzu was another issue to keep out of the light, but at least Hazashi was there and willing to help. Then, Madara is revived and out there somewhere, which meant that everyone he loved and everything he built was in danger. After repairing the damage to Iron Country, which only took a week with all of the support from Naruto's allies and the samurai themselves, Naruto was convinced to return to Konoha. Before leaving, he agreed to put up stronger protective barriers around each of the allied sites that would be able to identify White Zetsu. Among the corpses that were cleared out of the port and the giant crater, there were roughly 3,500 White Zetsu, which meant that there were far more out there. Additionally, everyone was on high alert for Madara Uchiha after being convinced by Naruto that he was revived. Naruto told the group that Madara was the original owner of the Rinnegan, and he was a colossal threat that only he and the Kage should confront. Even the Kage would only be useful in fighting a delaying action against the likes of Madara. Thus, Naruto agreed to be the designated opponent of Madara by the Kage. If Madara were sighted, everyone would fight a delaying action until Naruto could be summoned. This was a lot of pressure to put on the blonde hero's shoulders and it weighed on him constantly. The unknown probed at Naruto's anxiety and haunted his dreams. How many of his friends and precious people would die before Naruto were able to react and eliminate Madara? How much pain and suffering would the world endure because he was too slow to prevent Obito from getting the Rinnegan eyes? Naruto reported to the Konoha Council while being weighed down by such thoughts. His family members were the only people that knew the root of Naruto's subdued behavior and they were doing everything they could to help him cope. The return to the Senju compound brought a spark of life to his eyes as he felt safe within the compound and among those people that were most precious to him. Shien sensed Naruto re-enter the village and she was waiting for him at the gate with Rias and the children when the Senju clan arrived. She ran forward and wrapped him in a passionate hug, which still seemed weird to the rest of the family. As Naruto's head rested on her shoulder, Shien whispered reassurances in his ear. "Do not let the fear of tomorrow inhibit your joy today. Those who know you and those who love you are here to help you carry the weight." She placed a tender kiss on his cheek before releasing the man and backing away. Rias stepped forward with Hashi and Arashir after she handed Kushina off to Anko. "Ruto, we know what's going on. Unpucker those butt cheeks and trust in your family. We will handle this as one." Naruto took his children and shot an appreciative smile at Rias. "Thanks, Riri. That means a lot. I knew this was coming, but it is just sickening to know that Madara is out there somewhere." Tsunade moved at battle speeds and freed Hashi from Naruto before spinning him around. She stopped and turned to Naruto. "Look, Bubba, that old fossil is strong, but we can take him. Don't stress about things that haven't happened yet. Everyone is on high alert for his presence. Just enjoy this break and be ready to go when the time comes." Anko slapped Naruto on the ass suddenly. "Relax, Gaki. Not even Madara could stand up to that last jutsu of yours. We were 10 miles away and that earthquake still knocked me flat on my ass before that windstorm flattened me and blew up my skirt." This earned a chuckle from the group that was migrating to the gazebo to begin their customary drinking. Shien closed the distance and whispered in Naruto's ear, "I saw that jutsu and I just have to say, it was so stimulating." She followed this up with a pinch to his rear end before 3 wood clones sprouted out of his back to engage in the customary cuddling with his wives. Naruto sat down and pulled Shien onto his lap, which made the human vessel of Kami blush a cherry red. "Maybe I can help with that." He ran a hand down the toned leg of Shien and sent shivers of pleasure and anticipation up her spine. "You know, for 2 people that just met each other y'all seem really close," Anko said while eyeing the 2 like one of her prisoners. Shien latched tighter around Naruto's chest. "Well, with memories of my previous life came memories of my first interaction with Ruto. Then, when I made that contract with Kami, she told me to trust in her chosen. After seeing him, I must admit that it feels right." Tsunade downed a saucer of lemonade and cuddled into Kurama while swearing about not being able to drink. "Is that what's going on here? We didn't see much of what happened with you 2 last time around. Care to enlighten us?" Shien blushed before looking into the deep azure blues of Naruto. "Well, Naruto was among 2 teams of Konoha shinobi sent to me last time. I had no friends, no love, and I was only living to complete my duty. Naruto broke me out of that misery and convinced me to not sacrifice myself. He helped me defeat Morio and stuck around to rebuild my country for a bit. He was my first true friend and the first man that ever defied one of my visions. Shien trailed off there and tucked her head into Naruto's chest. Naruto took over from there. Haha, yeah, after Morio was dead we were close. Then, before I left, she asked me to give her an heir, which I unknowingly agreed to. Multiple people spit out their drinks at this statement, which made Naruto laugh heartily. Ha ha ha, yeah, I was pretty dense last time around. Sadly, the war happened soon after that and I never saw Shien again. Shien sighed wistfully, I spent my time praying for you and waiting for your return. When Sasuke betrayed you, I tried to join you in Suna with my people. We were killed en route by, Shien went silent here. It was Sasuke, wasn't it? Yami said in a knowing tone. That prat. No wonder he played catcher to the ass-fucking snake pedo. Tayuya added, which broke the somber atmosphere. Tayuya held her hands up defensively when four Narutos looked at her. That gay joke wasn't about you, so I am safe. Safe. She made the safe motion with her arms and earned hearty laughs from the group, even Naruto. Yes, Tayuya, it was Sasuke and some Konoha shinobi that caught us in our travels. When he heard that we favored Naruto, he killed my attendants before trying to take me as a hostage. Rather than be used against Naruto, I offered my life to Kami, and I nearly killed the Uchiha. Shien finished the conclusion of the story. Naruto snuggled even deeper into her in appreciation for Shien's past sacrifice. Tsunade nodded in understanding, but let Kurama speak for her. Well, it sounds like those residual feelings but anew. We will give you a chance, but I will caution you, little lady. I cherish my partner and will protect him with everything I have. If you break his heart, Tsunade playfully slapped Kurama on his chest to stop the empty threat. We will make sure you regret it, dear. Tsunade finished for Kurama. Shien giggled at that. Oh, I know. Trust me when I say that I aim for forever with Naruto. This earned a round of ahs from the women in attendance because they could sense the love she held for Naruto. Tamari sighed, well, how am I supposed to stand in the way of that? It is like all of the women Naruto touched in his past life just naturally find their way to him. Ino giggled, can't say I blame them. He is just so yummy. And cool and manly. Samui added. Don't forget troublesome. Hikari added on behalf of Shikamaru, which made everyone laugh once more. Naruto smirked at Hikari, oh yeah, lil sis. He created a clone that approached Hikari with fingers wiggling in a tickle motion. I think it has been too long since your last tickle torture. Everyone watched in amusement as Hikari dashed away and was caught moments later by the clone. She writhed on the ground in a giggling mess under the rapidly moving fingers. So, what did we miss while we were away? Tamari asked the group. The Oto group has been released and they are living under the supervision of the Uchiha clan. They each have tracking and prisoner seals for their probation. Yami said gruffly. The emo duck butt is out. Did you visit him? Naruto asked. Yup. Rias chirped. I constructed the prisoner matrix and applied the new seals to the group. They are all rather subdued after their imprisonment and counseling. Ino stepped in here. Did it seem like the counseling was working? Yami huffed. According to your father, they have disavowed Oto and Orochimaru. That at least seems genuine. What about the loyalist? The blue-haired one named Gurren? Tsunade asked since she remembered her clearly from the medical treatments and seal removal. Once they brought in the kid Orochimaru was holding hostage, I think his name was Yukimaru, from the Rice Daimyo, she became more cooperative. Shikamaru said since he had remained in Konoha rather than reinforce the cage. Ah, yeah, I remember that kid now. Makes sense that she would mellow out. So, they are all living in the Uchiha compound? Naruto asked. Yup. Rias chirped. Maybe we should go and visit. Naruto said. But for tonight, I think I have some ladies to take care of. As the four girls and Naruto disappeared into the house, Kurama shook his head. Lucky bastard. Tsunade decked Kurama for that comment. If you want a harem, go sit on a cactus. Kurama recovered rapidly and pulled Tsunade into his chest and rubbed his belly. Nah, I am happy with what I have. After a relaxing morning spent showing Shien around Konoha, including the hidden waterfall and the Kage Mountain. Naruto and his girls walked to the Uchiha compound. After Naruto sent a wood clone to Makoto, she had insisted on them joining the Uchiha clan for dinner. Naruto gracefully accepted and he told her that he would bring some food over. Thus, the normally quiet Uchiha compound was given a taste of the rowdy Senju clan. "Pass the taters, duck butt," Naruto said merrily while holding his hand out for the plate of mashed potatoes. "HN." Sasuke snorted but obeyed and handed over the plate of mashed potatoes. "So, is it true that you killed the leader of the Akatsuki?" Shisui wouldn't shut up on stories of the battle. Naruto shrugged. "Well, I took out the Rinnegan user, but the other Uchiha got away." Itachi sighed. "Who would have thought that it was Obito? Why didn't you tell us this before, Naruto? Would it have made a difference, or would it have just piled unnecessary guilt on your shoulders?" Naruto countered. Sasuke looked around confused. "What do you mean? Obito? Like the guy that was on Kakashi-sensei's team?" Makoto sighed. "Boys, can we not talk about something more pleasant at the dinner table?" Naruto offered a sincere smile to Makoto. "I will answer this one and then we will change the topic." Makoto nodded thankfully. "Yes, the guy in the orange mask is Obito Uchiha, former teammate of Kakashi and student of my father. Madara saved him from death and entrusted him with his mission to enslave the world. I didn't share his identity because it honestly didn't change anything, and it would only take Kakashi out of the fight." Itachi sighed loudly at that. "Yeah, Kakashi is not taking the news well. Anyways, Karen, why don't you share your story with us?" Karen put her fork down and looked down abashedly. It's not a pleasant story." Sasuke and Jugo put comforting hands on her shoulder. "Well, I grew up on the run with my mom. After the fall of Uzu, we traveled from place to place. When I was 5, we settled down in Kusa. After the invasion here, Orochimaru bought me from Kusa to experiment on my bloodline. When he hit a wall with that, he used me as a researcher and put the cursed seal on me to see if it would affect my bloodline." "Bastard." Gurren grunted in between mouthfuls of food before she wiped some gravy off of Yukimaru's cheek. "Well, do you wish to rejoin your family? I am the heir of the Uzumaki clan, and I am rebuilding Uzushiogakure." Naruto offered softly. Karen looked around unsure of what to say. I don't know. I don't know why you would want someone like me, plus, these guys are kind of like my own messed up family." Naruto shrugged. "Look, for once, your future is your own. You can decide. If they want to come to New Uzu when it is ready, then they are welcome to. I only ask that you give us a chance and that you learn the Uzumaki way. You would let us join you." "Why?" Gurren asked since she really didn't like it in Konoha where she felt judged. She could admit that she deserved it, but she didn't like Yukimaru being in this environment. Naruto offered her a graceful smile which made the brunette blush. "Because it is the right thing to do, and I need people to live in my kick-ass homeland." Sasuke scoffed. "Isn't it just a deserted island?" Before Naruto could respond, Makoto scolded Sasuke and Itachi spoke up. "The Senju clan has done much to rebuild the island already. The village is rebuilt and just needs people to live there. There are already farmers there harvesting the lands. Your brother is right, my son. It is a beautiful island, and I was considering retiring either there or Wave Country." Makoto said with a dreamy smile on her face. Tsunade laughed loudly at that. "Makoto, you should come out and join us. We would love to have an Uchiha woman like you in our leadership. I don't want to spoil surprises, but the Gaki found ways to avoid council meetings. So, if you want a cozy home on the beach with minimal duties, then let me know. Lady Senju, would you please resist poaching Konoha clans in my presence?" Itachi said in an exasperated tone. Naruto chuckled. "Well, if the Hyuga already approved 2 branches, then why won't the Uchiha do the same?" Itachi buried his head in his hands, but Shisui chimed in, "I'll go. I think Hana would love to live near the ocean and it sounds like the island has plenty of space for the pups to run." As Itachi groaned further, Makoto playfully slapped his arm. "Oh, relax, Sochi. We can flash there and back almost instantly, and we have the communication tablets. That reminds me, Ruto, when will our order be completed?" Naruto scratched the back of his neck sheepishly. Tablets are booked out nearly a year. It is tough getting enough chakra metal to keep them in production. I think your clan is a couple months out." Makoto sighed deeply. Oh well, communication scrolls will work for now. Sasuke was watching on completely confused. Why was his family so tight with the Senju heir? Why was Naruto talking about leaving Konoha? What in the actual hell was going on? Ahem, Naruto, why are you leaving Konoha and why is Itachi okay with it? What is this about tablets and flashing and all this stuff? Don't worry about it right now, little brother. I will get you up to date when we have time. So, Suigetsu, have you determined what you want to do? Itachi asked. Suigetsu grunted, nah, not yet. I think going back to the mist would be cool, but, I don't know. May will take you back. Zabuza is rebuilding the Six Swordsmen. Naruto said with a tone of merriment. Six Swordsmen? Suigetsu asked incredulously while standing to his feet. Yup, I broke Samahata. Sadly, its chakra network was not compatible with Senjutsu chakra. Naruto said playfully. While Suigetsu mourned the loss of one of the great blades, Naruto and the others laughed at his overexaggerated expression. You bastard, that was the greatest of the blades, Suigetsu moaned. Naruto unsealed Dragon's Roar and held it up for Suigetsu to inspect. The blue-haired boy gleefully took the wakizashi and unsheathed it. He whistled impressed as he scanned the blade. He looked up to Naruto for an explanation. My summons includes dwarf artisans and that was one of their creations. If you behave yourself, I may allow you to test one of the prototypes. Naruto took Dragon's Roar back and unsealed Heaven's Edge for him to inspect. This is the katana that I experimented with. It is so naturally conductive to wind chakra that I can cut almost anything. With Uzumaki techniques, I can craft blades that will outperform any blade in existence. Finally, he unsealed Benihime, petted reverently and handed it to Suigetsu. Well, accept this beauty. She is just special. Suigetsu was marveling over the beautiful weapons much like Tenten would. He was truly a sword enthusiast, and it was his dream to wield such a blade. If I can wield blades like this, then I will swear myself to you. Naruto nodded, sounds like a plan. So, Jugo, how is the Senjutsu balancing seal I applied working? The orange-haired bulky man smiled gracefully at Naruto, it has been great. I haven't had an episode since it was applied. I am grateful for your assistance. Shien chimed in here, well, Senjutsu chakra is a beautiful thing. Much like nature, it has the power to bring life or destroy it. I am glad you have found peace. Jugo smiled broadly at Shien, thank you, milady. As to my future plans, I guess I am undetermined as well. I would like to settle down somewhere that isn't plagued by the violence of the shinobi world. That's understandable. So, Sasuke, what are your plans? Ino asked while resting her chin on her hands. Sasuke shuffled nervously, well, I want to get through the probation period and try to redeem myself to my clan. Makoto placed a motherly hand on Sasuke's wrist. It will be okay, dear. You were taken against your will. Hell, all of you were. Just find peace and a new purpose and things will work themselves out. The dinner at the Uchiha compound was a pleasant experience and it rapidly turned into a drinking night. Tsunade once again lamented that she was unable to drink, but she still partook in the lively conversation. It was interesting for Naruto to see his previous lives, Team Hubby, enjoy themselves. When freed from the taint of the cursed seal and influence of Orochimaru, they were actually decent people. Date with a goddess. After the night with the Uchiha clan, Naruto returned to the compound with his girls. Naruto had been spending quality cuddle time with Shien in bed and he relegated his wives to wood clones. They didn't complain too much, but they said that Shien would have to share in the not-too-distant future. This left Naruto alone in bed with a goddess and he was grateful for the opportunity. He kept things tame for now, but it was Shien that was getting handsy as he cuddled in bed with her. She tucked into her position his little spoon and pulled his arms under her bust and snuggled deeper into him. The little tantalizing wiggle of her butt rubbed up against the sword that was doing everything it could to keep itself in its sheath. Ruto, you know, now that things have calmed down, I think it's time for me to get my date. Shien said airily as sleep called her human form. Naruto kissed the base of her neck and gave her a little squeeze, I think that is acceptable. Do you have any requests? Some good pasta and a good view. Naruto chuckled and the rumbling of his chest vibrated through Shien. I think I can do that. With her desires sated, Shien fell into a peaceful sleep in Naruto's arms. Up in Kami's realm, Minato and Kushina watched on with endearing smiles as the goddess opened her eyes. They knew that when her eyes were closed that she was getting the first-person view of her fragment in Shien. It was a more common occurrence now that Naruto was back in Konoha with Shien, and they were proud of their son. To see the contented smile on Kami's face filled them with contentment as well. The next day came, and Naruto enjoyed leading the shinobi through training. His once small CrossFit group now filled Training Ground 7 and he led over 200 shinobi of Konoha through a morning CrossFit session. After that, he flashed to Kiri to apply the enhanced protective seals over the main village before he returned in time for his date with Shien. He hopped into the shower and was surprised by Ino. Ino wanted some Ruto time and saw him slide into the shower. She didn't think Shien would mind if she partook of her husband before their date, so Ino got her shower quickie. The feel of Naruto in the shower was amazing and Ino got her fill before she turned to him with half-lidded eyes and placed a tender kiss on his lips. She smacked his ass and sank into the tub to catch her breath as Naruto dried off. Naruto found Shien waiting in the living room with an elegant golden, spaghetti-strap dress that exposed her milky white skin and showed off Kami's improvements to her body. Naruto let out a low whistle before wrapping his arms around her midsection and placing a seductive kiss on her slender neck. Shien tilted her head and made it easier to access for him before she turned and golden orbs locked with azure. She leaned forward and placed a chaste kiss on his lips. "Well?" she asked in a slightly shy and massively seductive tone. "Beyond beautiful," Naruto answered in a husky whisper. Shien melted into Naruto's chest for a moment before linking arms with him and following him to the golden leaf. Shien enjoyed her shrimp penne pasta and garlic bread from Konoha's fanciest restaurant. She looked out over the balcony and saw the illuminated faces of the Hokage before she felt Naruto's hands intertwine with her own. "Are you sure you don't want to be Hokage?" Shien asked with her eyes locked on the visage of his father. "Nah, I am happy with what I got. I am not the same kid that craved attention. I have answered a higher calling to restore my homeland and protect the people of Wave. I am happy with the path I am on now," Naruto said contentedly. Shien squeezed his hand a bit and tore her eyes away from the Hokage monument. "And what about me? I know I jumped right in, but how are you feeling?" Naruto offered a sincere smile. "I am happy. I don't need to overthink things. I am just happy to be with you, my girls and my family. That is all I need in this world. You're perfect," Shien said with a pleased grin on her face. "Thanks, sweetheart. That means a lot coming from you," Naruto shot back. "You aren't too bad yourself." Shien playfully slapped Naruto's hand. "Way to ruin the moment, baka," she said through giggles. Naruto shrugged. Moments weren't meant to last forever. Their value was only in the moment of their inspiration. "Oh ho, Mr. Philosophizer," Shien asked with a playful eyebrow raised. "Meh, just saying. Want to get out of here? I want to show you the Namikaze Gardens," Naruto asked. "Sure," Shien said while extending her hand out for him to help her up, "but why do you still call it the Namikaze Gardens? Wasn't your dad a senju?" Naruto took her hand and shrugged. "I wanted something to remain alive from the name he built up. The senju in Uzumaki will have their memories enshrined in New Uzu, so I figured I would leave the Namikaze compound with its name. Plus, I want to open the compound and let people enjoy the garden. Well, Mr. Senju, what say you show me what makes this garden so special?" Shien said in a playful tone as her feet followed Naruto's own. "It would be my pleasure, milady." The trip through Konoha was pleasant if not slightly annoying. The girls refused to leave him well enough alone and their pheromones tickled his nose and their jealousy prickled at his senses. Although he preferred that to the lust that he sensed coming from the men that greedily soaked in Shien's beautiful appearance. As the night air chilled, it gave Naruto a good excuse to unseal his jacket and place it over Shien's shoulders. The blondes cuddled into each other as they walked, and Naruto opened the gate to the Namikaze compound. As they passed the Genjutsu barrier, Shien let out a breath of amazement at the abundance of plant life that greeted them. The gardens were stunning from the residual natural energy that hovered around the compound from Naruto's meditation. The two walked to the grassy clearing that bordered the small lake before they cuddled down on a blanket. Naruto leaned back and peered up at the clear night sky that was untainted by the artificial lights of Konoha. The stars peered back at the couple and covered the small clearing in a peaceful ambiance. They cuddled into each other and took the time to get to know one another. Naruto found out that gold was Shien's favorite color, and because of that her aura naturally shifted to gold. He learned many other small things about his goddess in human flesh and found himself drawn deeper into her. The night passed with questions, kissing and cuddling that remained at the PG-13 level. They gazed at the stars just as much as each other's eyes. They lost themselves in the beauty of both things, and they reveled in the fact that the whole world didn't matter when they were wrapped in their own bubble. It was in this state that the two ended the date as Naruto flashed them into Shien's bedroom. As Kami opened her eyes, her realm glistened with a positive golden aura that illuminated her night sky. The smile on her face could only be described as the ethereal beauty of a happy goddess. Kami returned to her duties while humming a merry and content tune that reverberated off the walls of the room and filled the souls of all those that dwelled in the pure world. Minato and Kushina enjoyed the happy state and only hoped that their son could continue to make their boss happy. Surprise attack. Madara Uchiha was a proud man that was the definition of an ingenious battle junkie. His aptitude for battle was among the highest the world had ever seen, and he learned at a prodigious rate. He took 3 months to prepare himself after his resurrection, and he wore himself down to the bone each day to make the most of the time. He had integrated his Rinnegan and learned the powers of the vaunted eyes. He worked with the cells he stole from Hashirama and learned how to implement Senjutsu chakra into battle. It was a massive power boost that was difficult to control, but he knew he would need it if Zetsu's reports on the Kyuubi Jinchuriki were to be believed. Finally, Madara felt ready, and he was going to go and crush the cornerstone of the resistance to his will. His first fall occurred because he wanted to destroy Konoha, and now that Hashirama was no longer alive, there was nobody to prevent him from doing so now. Even if Zetsu told Madara that the boy was stronger than Hashirama, there was no way that Madara would believe it unless he experienced it himself in battle. Madara moved out of the mountain cave he had used for the last 3 months in Iwa and moved with a purpose towards Konoha. Zetsu and Obito trailed him, but Madara had ordered them to remain out of the fight. He wanted to cast Konoha into ruin single-handedly, which would crush the will of the Senju boy and draw him out into battle. Madara traveled quickly for the next 2 days, and once he entered Fire Country he moved at his top speeds. According to Zetsu, the boy could feel everything in Fire Country if he were in Sage mode. Madara recognized the terrain he was running through, and he jumped high into the air as the lights of Konoha appeared over the trees. The lights illuminated the darkening skies of dusk and cast a peaceful whitish-yellow sheen over the horizon. Madara enabled the gravity control of his Rinnegan to hover over Konoha. It was time for the world to know the price of resisting the will of Madara. Madara weaved through hand signs while floating hundreds of feet above Konoha and called out, "Rinne Arts, planetary devastation." Before the 3 massive asteroids began their descent onto Konoha, Madara was surprised to hear alarm bells trilling all over Konoha. He hmphed in disgust. These ants can scurry around all they want. There was no avoiding their end at the hands of Madara's jutsu. Madara watched. His asteroids break through the light cloud cover of the night sky as the eerie lights of Konoha illuminated the bottom of them. Madara could hear the wind rushing as it was forcibly pushed away from each asteroid's trajectory, and he closed his eyes with a smile on his face to wait for the moment of impact. The moment his revenge would be complete and the Kyuubi Jinchuriki would be no more. In the Senju compound, Naruto was having 4 heated makeout sessions with his girls as they lay in scattered heaps of tangled flesh when he felt the massive surge of chakra. He immediately knew something was wrong, and his 3 clones instantly set to the task of erecting a barrier around the Senju compound. The real Naruto called Kurama and Chome back into him forcibly and flashed into Golden Yokai Sage mode, the combination of Kurama, Chomiya and Senjutsu chakra, but he didn't stop there. He sensed the enemy in the air, and he sensed the 3 asteroids beginning their descent from orbit. He knew that he would need to exceed all of his previous limitations to save those he loves. In the 10 seconds after sensing the disturbance, he pulled in as much natural energy from the area as he could. He pulled on the life force of people in the village, the energy of the plants and trees of the forests, the currents in the air and the resiliency of the earth. The amount of natural energy would normally be overwhelming, but Kurama and Chome immediately recognized the severity of the situation and sank into meditative positions within the mindscape. Naruto felt the panic of the people as the alarms flared around Konoha. He felt his children and loved ones stir in the Senju compound. He felt the children he sheltered in the orphanage, he felt the shinobi stirring from their families and friends as they moved to report into emergency stations. All around him panic and chaos ensued, but he forced it out of his mind as he clapped his golden glowing hands together and his eyes furrowed closed in concentration. Then Naruto went through hand signs and slammed his hands on the ground while roaring, "Sage Arts, Protection of Yggdrasil." Itachi was atop the Hokage Tower, and he was looking up into the night sky as the shinobi poured in from all over the village. In the 30 seconds since the alarm went off, over 100 shinobi were already on the roof of the Hokage Tower. Each of them was following the eyes of the Hokage and their jaws dropped as more than half of each asteroid had cleared the cloud line. Even through the darkness of the night sky, the three massive constructs could be seen easily, and they spelled despair for the shinobi and civilians of Konoha. Madara hovered passively in the air now on the northern edge of the village. He didn't expect his jutsu to take almost a minute to descend from the heavens, but even the Rinnegan has its limitations. He had sensed the asteroids form out of nowhere in the upper atmosphere and he figured the fall was needed to maximize the effects of the jutsu. Now, as the asteroids closed in on their target, an evil and vengeful smile crept onto Madara's face. That smile cracked and faltered when Madara sensed the amount of senjutsu chakra being gathered to one point in the village. Then, Madara watched on in disbelief as the Senju boy completely shattered the restraints of his own humanity and halted Madara's revenge. The people of Konoha watched on in awe as a tree with a trunk that was nearly 300 feet in diameter rose in a twisted pattern out of the ground as it continued its ascent into the sky. The giant tree sprouted bushes and other softer aspects as it gently pushed the citizens of Konoha caught in its path out of its way. They were surely stunned and surprised, but each person would be okay once they picked their jaws off the ground and rolled their tongues back into their mouths. The tree continued to spiral upward until the canopy of the tree covered all of Konoha. The canopy continued to grow and surge forward with natural energy until all of the night sky was covered by the canopy. Above the canopy, three massive wooden branches diverged out of the first canopy and began their climb toward the three separate asteroids. The branches sprouted branches that rose in concave patterns into the sky. They climbed and climbed as their creator guided their ascent while roaring to the heavens. Naruto kept his hands on the ground and funneled as much as he could possibly push into his jutsu in the ground. His family was now gathered around him, and each member had a glowing hand on Naruto in an effort to assist his jutsu with their own chakra. Each member of the Senju clan contributed as much as they could as glowing palms offered their support and their eyes remained closed in concentration. They weren't distracted by the darkening sky or the emerging canopy. They were enraptured by the all-encompassing natural energy that was pouring into Naruto before being guided into the ground. 58 seconds after Madara cast his jutsu, a massive clash of superheated stone and wood echoed across Fire Country. The shockwaves of the impact created torrents of wind and the impact of millions of kilotons of force raced down the trunk of the divine tree and spread its force into the lands of Fire Country. The ensuing earthquake rattled Konoha like an Akamichi dinner bell while the tree of Yggdrasil groaned in effort to halt the advance of the asteroids. The impact lasted for nearly 15 seconds before the meteors stilled from the descent and came to rest in the shattered canopy of the divine tree. Madara watched on in disbelief as his jutsu was countered by a miracle that effortlessly outshone his previous rival. He remained hovering in the air completely stunned by the display as his body and soul began to itch and craving for a massive battle. As the ground stopped shaking and the air stilled, Madara nearly missed the golden form that broke through the dense canopy and slammed into him at speeds faster than he had ever moved. Madara, even with his enhanced eyesight granted by the Rinnegan, barely had time to erect a guard with his forearms before he was catapulted away at the speed of sound. Madara felt his arms nearly liquidize before Hashirama's cells and Senjutsu chakra healed them during his chaotic tumble through the air. He also felt the terrible impact of breaking the sound barrier that slammed into his back. All in all, as Madara hurtled away from Konoha his body reeled in pain before he crashed through the forest and left a trench nearly 500 feet long in the forest. Madara barely had time to pull himself out of the end of the cratered path before he was forced to dodge a golden punch that was glowing with chakra. He dodged, but that didn't stop the fist from soaring past him and into the ground. Madara was flung even further back away from Konoha due to the colossal impact of the punch and shattered earth. Madara was able to right himself in midair this time, and he aimed a palm at the golden figure that was dashing towards him at speeds that exceeded his eyes' capabilities. Madara watched in amazement and fascination as Mokuden Tails raced in front of the boy and shrugged off the effects of his gravitational wave that decimated the forests behind him. Madara was forced to create extra arms made of metal to counter the assault of fists and tails as a devastating taijutsu battle ensued. Not even the draining effects of the Preta path could stall the assault of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the Nanabi Jinchuriki. That brief, distracting thought caused Madara to pause, and his face paid the price in blood and flesh as a golden fist sent him flying through trees, rocks, earth and any other obstacle until Madara came to a skidding halt. Madara pulled on Hashirama's cells and the Senjutsu chakra they provided, but he was surprised to feel the link to his source of natural energy weaken until it flickered out. He grunted in pain as he pulled himself to his feet and noticed that he was now standing near a familiar valley. Before the golden boy could land another devastating punch, Madara used Shunshin to appear on his head on the other side of the canyon. With a brief respite in the fight, he removed his gunbi and katana from his back and turned to face the reincarnation of his rival. Naruto continued his chase as his rage carried him forward. After that last shot to Madara, Kurama and Chome disturbed the link to their yokai and were able to calm Naruto down. "Naruto," Kurama shouted through the mental link. "You need to calm down. You are drawing on too much of our yokai. You will burn yourself out at this rate." Naruto paused in place from where he had sent Madara flying. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath as he felt his tenketsu emptying while the yokai receded into his seal. He calmed that effect by letting the natural energy take its place, and he let his body calm and cool from the brief, yet intense, fight. "Thanks, Q. I lost myself for a bit. That motherfucking zombie needs to go back into the Kami damn dirt." Naruto thought back. He, Chome chittered, "I think that Tayuya is rubbing off on you." "Not now, sister, we are in a fight against Madara." Kurama chided. Naruto's head turned toward where he sensed Madara come to a halt, and he took one last deep and calming breath before he darted toward the valley of the end while thinking, "Thanks, Q. We got this. Can I still use your yokai?" Kurama cracked an eye open through his meditative pose. "Yeah, bud. Just keep cool while using it. That tree you created took a lot out of you." Naruto came to a halt on the head of Hashirama and saw Madara waiting for him with his gunbi and katana in hand. He scowled at the visage of an enemy that nearly beat him last time around. He could still vividly remember the feeling of Kurama being torn out of him and the despair brought on by the Biju being bested. Kurama resonated with those feelings, but the age-old Biju maintained his composure and steadied the yokai and natural energy that was filtering through the seal. "Why did you insist on coming back, Madara?" Naruto growled out across the valley. Madara did little to hide the battle-crazed smirk that engulfed his face. "How could I not come back when there is such an opponent? You are far stronger than Hashirama was in his prime. Tell me, boy, how did you attain such power?" Naruto scoffed. "Yeah, let me just tell the villain how I got strong. Look, old man, just go back in the dirt and let me fix the world you did your best to break." Madara cocked his head. "What do you mean? How do you know it was me?" Naruto chuckled. "I know that you mind-raped Obito and convinced him to follow your suicide plan. I know that you implanted the Rinnegan in Nagato so that Zetsu could twist him into a monster that would eventually be able to revive you. I know that the infinite Tsukuyomi was your idea, and I know that your dumbass idea would never work." Madara's maniacal grin faltered and was replaced by a frown that went down past his chin. "You shouldn't know such things. How do you know my plan will fail?" Naruto laughed like some villain out of a comic book before responding, "Because I am not retarded. I didn't try to enslave the Biju, I communicated with them. You a genius on the battlefield, but you are one of the stupidest people I have ever met. You were so greedy for power that you never stopped to consider the repercussions of your actions." Madara growled deeply and tightened his grip on his weapons. "You should not insult your elders, boy. You do not know the truths of this world. My elder. You are dead, you zombie fuck. Your place is in the ground in Yami's torture chambers. Not even the Shinigami would want your tainted ass soul." Naruto bit back. Madara could only take so much, and he was recovered from the damage and ready for his fight. He launched off of his own head and crossed the valley in less than a second before a resounding clang echoed across the valley as Benihime clashed against Madara's katana. Dragon's roar answered the Gunbi and Naruto cursed at the sage for crafting such a weapon. Naruto battled equally against Madara while in Golden Sage mode and his wind-coated blades were chipping away at Madara's katana. Madara had tried to use the Preta path to absorb the boy's chakra, but he was having minimal effect. It was clear to the battle maniac that the boy was at least equal to himself in Kenjutsu, and his weapons were much better in quality. After a spinning double slash, Madara's katana shattered, and he was forced to bring the Gunbi into a block. Naruto was waiting for this and he amped up with wind chakra with yokai and senjutsu chakra before he transitioned his spin into a stab. The two blades tore through the center of the Gunbi and shocked the hell out of Madara. Madara jumped back and used his gravity manipulation to land back on his head. His battle mania was reaching peak and he wanted to go all out against the boy. He weaved through hand signs in a blur and moments later the valley was filled with potent fire that raced towards him. The majestic flame destroyer didn't even cross half the valley before it was countered by a water-colliding wave that was equally as big. The steam released by the dual jutsu filled the valley and obscured their vision, but Naruto was a practiced sage and had the advantage. Madara was forced to jump back as Naruto indulged in a moment of hubris and shattered the earthen head of Madara with 10 trees that sprouted out of what used to be Madara's head. The Uchiha dodged backwards and growled at the sight of his perfection being erased from the world. Madara flew through more hand seals before a blade of white-hot fire soared across the valley. Naruto answered the potent fire blade with a wooden barrier that protected Naruto's front in a minimalistic fashion. The rest of the flame blade tore into the forest and started a fire that billowed smoke into the night sky. From behind the wood wall, Naruto pulled on Chomei's chakra and decided to use the same scale powder jutsu that gained him the advantage in the fight against pain. As Obito shouted at Madara to close his eyes, the night erupted in light as if a second sun emerged. The chakra light was so intense that Madara's Rinnegan was blinded. The battle experience of the Uchiha shined through when he was able to dodge the initial punch Naruto threw, but he wasn't able to dodge the follow-up knee. The knee catapulted Madara into the air, but his momentum was halted violently and abruptly by chains that lashed around his ankles. Madara cried out in pain as his knees were dislocated by the sudden change in momentum and his scream was interrupted as his head and body slammed into the earth. His body was enveloped by the pain caused by the two attacks, and he instinctively pulled on the power of his Sharingan. Madara's right eye transitioned out of its Rinnegan phase and became the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The body of the Susanoo erupted around Madara and the wounded Uchiha was placed in a chakra-reinforced diamond on the center of the massive construct's forehead. Naruto didn't wait for the blindness to abate before he weaved through hand signs and 10 wooden dragons wrapped the Susanoo up. The Susanoo was wrapped so tightly that all 4 arms were incapable of moving, but that didn't stop it from making hand seals. A torrent of fire poured out of the Susanoo's mouth and ignited the air on its path towards Naruto. Naruto countered with the Rashomon gates that absorbed the impact of the flames and left a large, V-shaped area of protection in front of Naruto. The wooden dragons didn't perish to the flames, they continued eating the chakra of Madara's so-called perfect Susanoo as their senjutsu-reinforced bodies withstood the potent flames. Madara's Susanoo appeared to be cracking, which surprised the legendary Uchiha warrior. In addition, his body was beginning to fail from the large chakra expenditure and the accumulated damage he took from Naruto. This was not ideal. As the Susanoo was cracking, Obito appeared in a swirl within the forehead of Madara's Susanoo. "My lord, it is not wise to continue this fight. The boy has endless energy from the Kyuubi in his sage mode. Let us withdraw." Obito's tone bore traces of fear that greatly irritated Madara. Madara growled as his subordinate disrupted his intense battle, "I am not beaten yet. My lord, the boy will beat you. Please, retreat for today and we will find a way to defeat him." Obito pleaded, "We can place the Biju we have collected within you to give you the advantage." This caught Madara's attention, and he growled at the thought of needing to use another's power. Before he could protest further, he felt Obito's hand on his shoulder and his body was sucked into Obito's alternate dimension. The form of Susanoo crackled into pixels of chakra that were absorbed by the chakra-draining dragons. The only sound heard across the battlefield was the stirring of dragons and the crackling of wood from the raging forest fire. Naruto clicked his teeth before roaring out in frustration. How could he forget Obito's stupid jutsu? He absent-mindedly flipped through hand seals and made the water from the river in the valley rain down in torrents on the raging forest fire. He sustained the jutsu until only embers remained before he sat on the ground to collect his thoughts. "Relax, Ruto," Kurama said in a calming tone. "That was a win for us. You just sent Madara Uchiha, one of the most feared shinobi of all time, fleeing with his tails in between his legs. Indeed, Ruto, it was truly impressive, and it made me proud to be your partner." Chomei added. "Thanks, you too. I just wanted to end this pointless fighting, and this was my opportunity." Naruto thought back. Yeah, it would have been fitting to end him here, but there is only so much you can do. We still have a massive tree and meteors to deal with back in Konoha, so let's go home. Kurama said warmly. Indeed, Ruto, if you could create such a tree for me, it would be the perfect home. That was truly magnificent. Chomei screeched excitedly through the clicks of her pincers. Ah, how did I accept sharing my partner with you? You are so excitable. Kurama moaned, which made Naruto chuckle. Naruto hopped to his feet. All right, you two, that's enough. I love you both and I am grateful for your help. Let's go home. Naruto disappeared in a golden flash. Chapter 48 Reaction to Madara. Naruto appeared in the Senju compound to see his whole family as well as a couple Anbu waiting for him. He received the summons to the council room, which was to be a joint council as well as an allied council. Seems like Itachi wanted to get this over with all at once. Naruto couldn't shake the thought that it was a bad idea. He was sure each Kage had their own idiotic councils to deal with, but it probably wasn't the best idea to host a joint council with the other Kage present. As Naruto entered the council chambers, he saw each Kage and the full ninja council of Konoha. He breathed out a sigh of relief when he saw that only the core council of civilians were present. He took his spot in the center of the room and locked eyes with each of the Kage. With small bows of respect, the greetings were over, and Itachi began. Naruto, could you please provide a full report? I have brought our allies here to hear this first-person report. Itachi said monotonously. It's 4 a.m. You better have a good reason for disrupting my beauty sleep. Mei groaned, but her attitude did a 180 when she locked eyes with Might Guy, who beamed a smile at her. I am guessing it has something to do with the gargantuan tree that is covering the whole village. Raza asked. Naruto nodded. Forgive us for pulling you from your beds. Madara Uchiha launched a surprise attack on our village, and I was able to defend our village before I engaged Madara in single combat. Naruto proceeded to tell the story of the battle and included the brief conversation and the conclusion of the battle. So, just to be clear, you beat the crap out of the Madara Uchiha and sent him packing all the way to the Valley of the End where you fought against and bested his perfect Susanoo. Itachi said in disbelief. Naruto shrugged. Yes, Madara had a cheap imitation of Sage Mode in the Rinnegan. He thought that would be enough to best me, and I wish I were able to end him while I still had the element of surprise, but I was unable to finish him. If Obito didn't interfere, it would have been my victory. I shook his head lightly before returning to his stoic facade. I believe it. I will believe anything that comes out of the kid's mouth at this point. So, what do we do now? How do you think Madara will react to this defeat, Lord Hokage? Raza asked. Why do you ask me? Itachi asked. Because your clan has the most complete records of Madara. You should know the most about the legendary rogue Uchiha. I answered. Itachi sighed. Madara left our clan shortly after the formation of Konoha. In truth, we know very little about his reasons for leaving. The clan journals from the Clan Wars era show that he is a battle maniac and that he was intensely loyal to his clan. He will try to attain more power. Naruto cut in. His objective hasn't changed. The only source of power that could put him on equal footing with me is that of the Biju. Even then, he will enslave them and not synchronize with them. I am not scared of fighting against Madara. I am scared of not being there when he makes his move without me there to stop him. Naruto said pointedly. Do you think he will come after our villages now? Do you not think the Kage can hold him off? Mei asked. Not yours, Naruto answered shortly. He will go after those with the Biju. He may attempt to punish villages and make us fear, but I think he will prioritize going for the Biju. Raza got into a contemplative pose. Do you think Gaara should remain here in Konoha? Naruto nodded sadly. Yes, Papa Raza, I do. Gaara is strong and I trust my brother. However, Madara is on a different level though. It doesn't need to be immediately because he will need to lick his wounds. That being said, I believe he will go for Gaara or Yugito first. Why? I asked shortly after hearing Yugito's name. Because removing and absorbing the colossal power of a Biju isn't easy, even with the Rinnegan. It is like a tug of war. If he tried with the higher level Biju first, he would lose the fight against their potent chakra that overwhelms his own reserves. Naruto answered. So, we hide Yugito and Gaara? Itachi asked. Naruto scoffed. No, I refuse to let that motherfucker rule us through fear. Itachi nodded to Shikaku Nara, who stood up and bowed to the cage before speaking. Why not lay a trap then? This silenced the room, and everyone was excited to hear what scheme the Nara could concoct. We hide the Nibi and Ikibi in New Uzu. Then, we let this Zetsu creature hear about it and fight him on our terms. Naruto scoffed. You want to use the lands I recently rebuilt to host the battle? They would be isolated and alone without shinobi guards there. The village's defenses are good, but they can't withstand someone like Madara. I frowned. I agree with Naruto. I am not against setting up a trap, but that seems ill thought out. Madara used to interact with the Uzumaki. He would know how to access those lands. Plus, so long as they can relocate at will, they will be able to hit and move. Hiyashi added, which drew heads towards him. We need to develop a mobile countermeasure to the space-time jutsu before we do anything else. As of now, it takes me 4 clones and a minute or so to get into position. I also have the engraved seals into the barriers of each of your villages. Naruto answered while thinking. For now, we do not have the initiative and that is what gives me pause. Then, why don't we just assault Aim and Iwa? I asked. I read the report about your sweep through Oto. Why not do that? The cages were each in their thinking poses when Shikaku stood up. I do not believe that a wise idea. The threat of the White Zetsu is still something we are attempting to counter. After seeing the chaos they could sow against 200 of our strongest shinobi, I don't like the thought of that mayhem on a broader scale. Naruto nodded. We can plan out an identity seal and apply it to every uniform that is worn by our forces. I am not against a sweep, but that could put many civilians in danger. The amount of collateral damage would be unpalatable. Better their villages than ours. Sun said firmly, and there were many that agreed with her. Naruto frowned at that thought. Honestly, it is that line of thinking that perpetuates the cycle of hatred. We are so close to victory that we must wrap it up in the proper way. I can begin hunting for Madara on my own while you each protect your villages. Absolutely not. Tsunade stood up and slammed her hand on the desk, which drew every eye in the room to her. Strongest shinobi in the world or not, you are not going to shoulder this alone. She is right, Naruto. Itachi added firmly. Don't hog all the fun for yourself, brat. The Raikage barked out. Family never fights alone. Raza said sagely. Mei sighed and relented. Let us help you, Naruto. You have done enough for each of us already. Naruto held up his hands in defeat. Fine, then I will let you all plan this out. Just tell me where you want the big guns and when you need me. In the meantime, you will each agree to immediately summon me if Madara shows up. The Kage each nodded to this statement. Naruto, what will we do about the giant tree and the 3 asteroids that are resting atop our village? Chusa Akamichi asked sheepishly. Naruto chuckled. Once the asteroids are pulverized, I can have the earth reabsorb the tree. I am a little too tired to do that today. That being said, we have a couple people capable of smashing the asteroids and we can use our barrier core to prevent any of the rubble from damaging the village. Inoichi's sweat dropped. Will the tree hold the giant rocks until you recover? It stopped them while they were falling from the sky, didn't it? Naruto shot back after yawning. The Kages were each watching the exchange in amusement as their hero. Yes, they all agreed that he was a hero at this point, shrugged off 3 asteroids hovering over the village. Let it go. Naruto, you may return home and rest. We will deal with the new additions to the village tomorrow, or well, later today. Itachi said. As for each honorable Kage, could I invite you for tea in my office? That'll do, not like I can go back to sleep anyways. Raza started. Get it done in time for CrossFit and I'm in. I followed up. Mei glanced towards Guy and threw a wink his way before saying, I prefer black with 2 cubes of sugar. Ow, please return to Kiri and clear my schedule for the day. Naruto left the council chambers and flashed to his room where he collapsed in a tired heap on his bed. This naturally woke up the four blondes that were cuddled up waiting for him to return. He was so exhausted that he didn't react to them stripping him, nor moving him to the bathtub, nor when the warm water encased his body. The sponge bath he received from his lovers sent him to the land of sweet dreams and he resided there until late afternoon. He is so cute when he is asleep like this, Shion said affectionately as she tenderly wiped some hair out of his face. You really love him, don't you? Tamari asked as she dropped the sponge in the bath water and cast an analytical gaze over the newest blonde. Shion smiled wistfully, yes, for reasons unknown and unfathomed, I do. His warmth and presence call my soul to his own. Yeah, I understand that. It was the same for me. Samui said softly as she wrapped her arms around his waist and pulled him into her. She had the honor of going in with Naruto and she cherished every opportunity she had to love on him. Yeah, the guy is special. Who else could convince all of us to share one man? Ino added. Tamari scoffed, I thought I would just have to share with you, flower girl. Samui pouted and splashed water at Tamari, oh, really? So, you weren't the one that tied him to a bed and pulled me into the room. Tamari blushed brightly, that was Ino's idea. And you didn't touch her at all. Ino challenged. Oh, no, she touched me, licked me and pleasured me. Temari's face turned flush, and steam began coming out of her ears in wisps. That clone train was amazing, and I definitely remember her tongue. She is good with her tongue. Samui took shelter from the others behind Naruto's back while Shion was blushing furiously as Kami's mind raced with perverted thoughts. The goddess had never indulged in the pleasures of the flesh but maybe, ladies, I know it's early, but… Ino cut her off, when the time is right and it doesn't feel forced or awkward, we will bring you in. For now, we are all getting to know you. Well, except Naruto. He seems pretty close to you. Shion blushed and averted her eyes, yeah, he knows me pretty well and it feels like there is nothing between us anymore. Ino scooted over and cuddled into Shion, ah, that is so cute. I, for one, think you fit in just right. Later that day, Naruto awoke to find that the meteors had already been smashed to bits by Tsunade. It was amusing for him to walk around the village because everyone was either gaping at him or the tree as he passed by. It was weird walking through a heavily shaded Konoha, but he figured that it was rather fitting. Despite that, he met up with Itachi and Aoba, captain of the Barrier Corps, to discuss absorbing the tree. Lord Senju, will there be any risk to the local populace when you reabsorb it? Aoba asked while looking up at the dense canopy. Naruto shrugged, I should be able to absorb it from the top down. The only real risk is leftover debris falling. The broken branches and meteor fragments, stuff like that. I will get the barrier core too. Activate the low-altitude protective barrier then. Aoba said in his thinking pose. I will have the Anbu on standby to intercept debris. Itachi added. Naruto shrugged and yawned, very well. Can I leave a slightly larger than average tree in its place? I think it would be a good thing to commemorate the day and act as a reminder to Konoha to remain vigilant. Itachi nodded along, very well. The housing in the trunk was already destroyed. I have promised that you would erect new homes for them, and our engineering corps will handle the advanced ceiling, electrical and plumbing. Okay, that sounds easy enough. Okay, let me know when you are ready, Lord Hokage. Naruto bowed with an overdramatic wink and flourish, which made Itachi chuckle. Crowds gathered and watched Naruto undo his miracle. The oohs and ahs that were heard as he entered GSM were slightly distracting, but Naruto pushed through. The crowd watched on in amazement as tree groaned and began absorbing the dense canopy into the massive trunk of the tree. The process took Naruto nearly 20 minutes because he wanted to make sure too much debris didn't fall too quickly. The Konoha shinobi shot volleys of fireballs at the falling debris or erected earth domes if the debris couldn't be destroyed. It provided some entertainment for the populace and the end result was a tree that was 120 feet tall with a Mokuden tile engraved with a memorial message. Ever vigilant, ever safe. Keep your eyes open and senses aware to protect the great tree. Guy's official challenge to Kurama. Might Guy lived by a couple core tenets that kept his anchored to sanity and they sheltered him from the despair of a harsh past that haunted many shinobi. First, give it your best in everything you do, each and every day. Second, your word is your bond, once it is broken, it is worthless. Third, nothing is stronger than love and positivity. He lived by these 3 tenets, and he did everything within his power to pass these core strictures to his students. Thus, after the morning CrossFit session a couple days after Madara's attack, Might Guy realized that he had accepted a challenge and not followed through on it. As he was cleaning up equipment, he remembered the challenge he accepted from Kurama, and he wanted to remind one of his youthful rivals. He bounded over to where Naruto was guiding nearly 100 Konoha shinobi through the cooldown session. Great workout, Ruto. It was a most youthful workout. Naruto looked up at the eccentric Jonin as he continued stretching. I have come to remind Kurama that we agreed to a youthful spar when we were on our mission in Snow Country. Naruto chuckled, yeah, I remember stopping you 2 knuckleheads. Wanting a spar like that in the middle of a mission, Naruto shook his head at the memory. Well, I can let Kurama know. I am sure he would agree. Guy pumped a fist in the air, which earned a, Guy's sensei is so cool. From Lee, before he continued the conversation. Yosh. Well, I have this afternoon clear, and I would like to issue the challenge once more to Lord Kurama. Naruto nodded, okay, I will let him know. Where do you want to do it and what are the terms of the spar? Guy instantly transitioned into a thinking pose, well, I cannot compete with his jutsu. Could you see if he agrees to a taijutsu-kenjutsu battle? We can fight on training ground 9. I will ask for barriers from you, Ruto. Naruto winced, you want to fight Q in kenjutsu? That is. Guy nodded enthusiastically and cut him off, yes, since my time in Snow Country, I have found a passion for the blade. Using your katana let me know how much more efficient it is than simply using my fists. Naruto smiled at that, he truly loved kenjutsu. Yeah, you were fierce with a blade. That scene where you chucked my sword with $800,000 was awesome. Guy scratched the back of his neck sheepishly, I am grateful you were able to recover such a fine blade. I lost myself to my youthful passions and I wasn't thinking about the blade. Naruto waved him off, no harm, no foul. Just don't do it again. Now, I will let Kurama know to be at training ground 9 at 2 p.m. That sound good. Guy threw one fist in the air and lashed the other out in a thumbs-up gesture, Yosh. That is a fiery time, and I will bring my most youthful best. As Naruto was leaving, he could already hear the rumors spreading and feel the anticipation of the crowd. Guy's reputation had skyrocketed in recent years, and he had become an acknowledged leader of the Jonin. He was also ranked number 5 among Konoha's ranks, which had expanded quite a bit since the Senju's return. Thus, the Konoha rumor mill churned at full speed when Naruto returned to the Senju compound to notify Kurama of the spar. Oi, Q, where you at? Naruto said as he walked into the compound. Garden gazebo. Q shouted back. Naruto entered the garden and couldn't stop the smile from breaking out across his face. He shook his head and chuckled when he saw Kurama and Tsunade cuddling on the bank of the pond that took up a bit of the Senju training grounds. Tsunade was almost 4 months pregnant, and the baby bump was being cradled affectionately by the Kitsune Biju. Both of his honorary parents turned their heads to him and returned the affectionate smile. What's going on, Ruto? Tsunade asked in contentment. Naruto chuckled. Guy remembered the agreement to spar, Q. You know the one I broke up in Snow Country. Kurama let out a deep laugh, haha, yeah, bud, I remember. When does he want to do it? 2 p.m. You want a boost? Naruto asked. Kurama closed his eyes and looked internally, yeah, I can use more of my yokai. I don't want any of your senjutsu though. I want to fight Guy with my own power. Naruto nodded, figured you would say something like that. You have been out of the seal for months now, so I kinda figured you would be running low. By the way, he wants to keep it a tight kenjutsu. Kurama clicked his tongue, he won't let me show off, huh? Tsunade slapped his hands playfully, he doesn't want to get burnt to cinders or shredded to bits. Your jutsu basically requires somebody of our level to counter. Kurama let a prideful smile spread over his face, and that is why I am so taken with you. I found myself the most beautiful and powerful mate in the world. Tsunade blushed and Naruto laughed. The three spent a while just hanging out by the pond before Naruto topped Kurama's yokai off and they geared up for the spar. They walked as a trio through the village and ignored the whispers and turned heads. It was a change for them, and they had grown accustomed to it. Some hailed them as heroes for what they have done for Konoha. Some were upset that they planned on leaving Konoha, but overall, the overall sentiment was reverent and positive, which was nice for a trio of empaths that could feel what the villagers were feeling. Naruto couldn't stop the full-bellied laugh that erupted when he walked through the crowd of shinobi that had shown up to watch the spar. Seriously, do these guys have nothing better to do? Naruto never really thought about the shinobi force of Konoha that was nearly 5,000 strong. It was rare to see so many in one place, and it made it clear that Konoha was hailed as the number one for a good reason. The crowds parted reverently as the mix of Genin, Chunin, Jonin and Anbu parted ways to let the elite shinobi pass. There wasn't a single one of the gathered shinobi that were pretentious enough to think they could stand on the same level as the trio. As they entered the training grounds, Naruto was amused to see Might Guy and Rock Lee limbering up. The two played off each other a little too well, which is why most people avoided them. This had gotten more bearable over the years, but when they were truly excited, the flames of youth danced and nearly consumed Konoha. "My eternal rival," Guy shouted before he bounded over to Kurama. "My eternal rival," Lee shouted as he bounded over to Naruto. Naruto cocked his head at the look in Lee's eyes before he turned to Guy. "What's up, Guy?" Guy puffed out his chest and slung an arm over Lee's shoulder. "Well, my eternally youthful student said that we should change the terms of the spar. I couldn't extinguish his vibrant youth, so I request that we make this a tag team spar." Kurama laughed boisterously and Naruto shook his head. "Still only Ken and Taijutsu." Naruto mumbled under his breath. Guy lashed out with another thumbs up accompanied by shining teeth. "Indeed. For you, young Senju, we request no Sage Mode or Yokai Cloak." Naruto nodded. "And for Lord Kurama, we request a limitation of 6 tails." Kurama chuckled and let his tails sprout behind him. He sighed as he placed a hand over Naruto's seal and 2 of the tails disappeared. He locked eyes with Guy. "Will that do?" Guy nodded proudly. "Indeed. Now, we also decided to use chakra wood weapons that are blunted. Strikes will be counted and any killing blow would be honored." Naruto shrugged. "Sounds fair. So, are we going to let you use the gates?" Lee's eyes watered and turned into a terrifying version of the puppy dog eyes. "Please." Kurama belted out a laugh. "Very well. No long-term injury, so you are both limited to 4 gates." Naruto turned to Kurama and looked at him incredulously. "You want to give them 4 gates when we can't use our cloaks?" Kurama put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Relax, partner. I just want a good fight." Naruto sighed and nodded. "Very well. We accept the set terms of the spar." Guy and Lee jumped in a synchronized fashion into the air and performed a double high five. "Yosh!" They screamed and made every shinobi present cringe. Naruto fashioned an extra-long katana-shaped sword from Mokuden and handed it to Guy. He created blunted tonfa for Lee. An extra-long katana for Kurama, and he replicated his dual blades for himself. After doing that, he created 4 wood clones that entered Sage Mode and erected the barrier around the training ground. As soon as the barrier was set, the shinobi crowd closed in to get the best view. Every tree was loaded to capacity as the Jonin and Anbu found their perches. The Konohamaru Corps found a spot near the front center of the barrier, and groups of genin whispered excitedly about the battle they were going to witness. The rookies were all lined up along one side of the barrier while talking animatedly, and the sensei were behind them. In this fashion, the whole barrier was encircled by the shinobi population of Konoha, and the excitement grew to a dim roar. "Do you think Guy and Lee stand a chance this time around?" Kiba asked while leaning on Akamaru. Shikamaru yawned and responded, "It is too troublesome to think about. I am sure that Naruto and Kurama handicapped themselves to make it fair. Not like we will actually be able to see anything anyways." Ino laughed and cuddled into Tamari, who was watching the processions with an analytical eye. "Leave it to you, Shika. If you never practice tracking fights at these speeds, then you will never be able to keep up." Sakura scoffed, "Are you saying you can track them?" Samui laughed, "We had spars every day on our trip. Naruto and Tsunade in Sage Mode will likely be faster than these boys today." Shion shuffled in. "I am excited to see Naruto go all out. It will be my first time watching in person." "Who are you, Blondie?" Kiba asked while doing his best not to check her out. Ino pulled Shion into her hug with Tamari. "This is Shion. I guess you could say she is engaged to Naruto. He got another one." Ten asked incredulously. Shion blushed. Yeah, well, you could say a higher power was involved. I was the shrine priestess of Demon Country. Shino pushed his glasses up. It is only logical, Kiba. Naruto has always had a weakness for blondes. Choji couldn't help but laugh at that. Yeah, he does. I mean, look at these 4 beautiful blondes. Gotta tip my hat to the guy. And you are okay with this? Sakura asked while looking at Ino, Temari and Samui. They all shrugged, but Ino spoke for the group. I know it seems weird, but Shion fits right in. Plus, it's not like it actually takes away from our Naruto time. Ten scoffed. How doesn't it take away from your time with him? How can he keep the 4 of you happy? 3 of the 4 wiped away small nosebleeds at the thought and Shion blushed. It was Shikamaru that cut into the conversation. Are you serious? Troublesome woman. What is Naruto's most used jutsu? As the reality hit Ten, her face turned red starting at her chin until the tips of her hair flushed. Then, steam spouted from Ten's ears, and she passed out in Neji's arms. Neji turned to the foursome, and it doesn't bother you to spend quality time with the clones. Samui scoffed, each clone is so eager to please. It is amazing. Yeah, you get used to it and he spreads his love equally among us, Ino added. Plus, his clones are perfect replicas. As long as you don't think about it, you don't even really notice. Temari contributed. His presence is just so warm and bright, even a fraction of the real Naruto is worth it. Shion summarized, which left a dumbstruck crowd of rookies. In the barrier, Guy and Kurama had started the spar. They were just warming up and stretching out as they clashed for the past 5 minutes. Both of them were wearing devilish smirks as they blurred around the training ground to the amazement of the genin in attendance. As they picked up speed, Kurama surprised Guy when he allowed his 6 tails to spread out behind him. Guy was further surprised when he was forced to take the fight seriously as 10 appendages assaulted him at blurring speeds. Kurama's smirk encompassed his whole face as he sent Guy flying with a tail lash that followed behind a spinning kick. As Guy careened into the barrier, Kurama darted over to Naruto and tagged him in. Get a warm-up, partner. Once they open the gates, it is going to get rough. Kurama said as he tagged out. As their hands clapped, Naruto chuckled, yeah, I know, Q. You might pay for that little trick later. Before Kurama could respond, Naruto disappeared in a blur towards Guy who had already recovered. Naruto cut Guy off from tagging Lee because he wanted a piece of Guy first. Guy's Guken style was terrifyingly powerful, and each blow Naruto was forced to block could be felt. Even without Sage Mode, Naruto rapidly healed from each blow and Naruto wanted a shot at paying Guy back for the bruises. Naruto slapped away a right straight and ducked under the side kick before he exploded upwards with an uppercut. Guy turned his shoulder and absorbed the blow, before he was sent tumbling backwards. Guy righted himself and forced Naruto to keep his distance with a spin kick that lashed out at hip height. Guy continued his spin and flipped backwards, which landed him by an enthusiastic Lee. Naruto groaned as he heard the slap and was forced to block that leaf whirlwind kick that Lee had turned into his signature intro. Naruto encased his right forearm in his Mokuden gauntlet, and he caught Lee's leg. Naruto grinned foxily as he spun the enthusiastic taijutsu specialist around at blinding speeds before launching him into the air. A dizzy Lee flew nearly 150 feet into the air, but the flight allowed him time to clear his head. His face grew serious as he began his descent, and he unwrapped the wrist bindings he wore. Before Lee could fall completely, he dodged Naruto's attack by lashing his bindings to a tree, which shifted his trajectory and gave him control of his descent. Lee wrapped around a tree branch and used the momentum to launch himself at a surprised Naruto. The moment of clashing in midair was actually an exchange of 10 strikes and Lee was able to sink his fist into Naruto's gut. Naruto grunted as Lee's powerful blow landed and he rolled with the momentum and flipped backwards until he landed on the ground. Lee landed moments later and the two clashed once more. Naruto allowed Lee a 10-minute warm-up as he guided the exchange toward Kurama. Lee was surprised when Naruto spun out of a blow, and it was Kurama's fist that sent him flying backwards. Got to maintain your battlefield awareness, Lee. Kurama chided as he strutted over to the eccentric boy. Lee picked himself off the ground and wiped the blood off of his lip. Thank you for the youthful lesson, Lord Kurama. As the two engaged, Sasuke was having a conversation with the few people he considered friends while watching. He knew everything he said was not private as the 4 Anbu guards surrounded Gurren, Suigetsu, Jugo, Karen and himself. He had come to accept it and knew it was his own fault that he was in this situation. He was amazed to see the level of combat that Konoha had grown accustomed to. "Oi, Suigetsu, think you could keep up with them?" Sasuke taunted through his trademark smirk. Suigetsu scoffed, "Of course I can. I can still track them. Give me a blade and they would be sliced toast." Jugo was normally a silent man, but he had grown out of his shell since he didn't need to worry about suddenly rampaging. "No, you might keep up with them at this level, but they are holding back a lot." Karen watched on in amazement. She had already declined living with Naruto since she wanted to stay with her friends. "It is amazing. I was never one for combat, but they are moving so fast. And the power behind their blows is staggering," Gurren added while Yukimura rode on her shoulders. As she said that, Lee missed a kick and created a 10-foot crater where Kurama was standing a moment before. Sasuke nodded. "He has grown even stronger since I last fought him. Lee is one of the best at taijutsu. In fact, that was all he could use during the Chunin exams. Then how is he reinforcing himself with chakra?" Karen asked since she could sense the chakra Lee was shaping within his body. Sasuke's head snapped to her. "What do you mean?" "He is reinforcing his body with lightning chakra. He started doing it after he took the blow from the fox dude." Karen informed the group, which made Sasuke think. Lord Senju performed an operation that gave him a modified chakra network with Fuinjutsu. The Eagle Mask Anbu informed the group. "What can't that guy do with Fuinjutsu?" Sasuke said in a mixture of jealousy and frustration. "Look all around Konoha. You can see what he is capable of by doing so." Gurren said blandly. "I think I will follow him to Uzushiogakure. I don't mind the trees, but I prefer the ocean and his seals will make that village incredible." Suigetsu nodded, "And those seals on swords are awesome. To think he can outperform the legendary swords. Holy shit," Karen whimpered as Lee crashed into the barrier right in front of them. Lee pulled himself up and rubbed his cheek as the impact of the barrier really hurt. He looked to Guy Sensei, who shook his head in the negative. It wasn't time to open the gates yet. Lee ducked under a flurry of punches from Kurama and swept his feet. This staggered the Kitsune Lord and gave Lee time to tag Guy in. Guy pulled out his wooden katana and Kurama mirrored his action with the foxiest smirk on his face that anyone had ever seen. Their speeds cranked up to the next level as swords were thrown into the mix. It was Kurama's area of specialty and he sprinkled pointers for Guy into the spar. The taijutsu prodigy was picking up the art of kenjutsu rapidly, but he was still far behind the proficiency of Kurama. That meant that Guy took glancing blows to the shoulders and forearms, but he had avoided all of the fatal blows that would remove him from the spar. The negative trend for Guy caused him to jump far away from Kurama and unleash the gates. Guy opened the gates of opening, healing, life and pain all at once. Guy saw no need to hold back and step this fight up any further. He wanted to take the decisive advantage and eliminate Kurama from the spar. He blurred forward in a streak of red that was caused by the blood rushing to the surface of Guy's skin. The intense chakra wave followed the path he tore through the training grounds, and everyone heard the groan of the wooden swords as the high-speed impact tested their durability. It took less than a minute of Guy with the fourth gate open to shatter both wooden renditions of the katanas, and now Guy was in his element. Kurama was compensating by streaming his yokai at high speeds through his Mokuden body, and it was straining him to his limits. The restrictions he and Naruto accepted were debilitating when dealing with someone this proficient with the 8 inner gates. "Yosh! Guy-sensei! Show them the springtime of youth!" Lee shouted from the sidelines. With the rookies, Neji hung his head as his peers snickered, and it was 10-10 that groaned aloud and voiced their shared distress. "They have gotten so much better, but when you get them hyped up, they revert back to that." 10-10 gestured towards all of Lee with her hands. He, Sakura giggled, "I am glad that some things never change." Shizuka watched on with a fond smile. "It is getting rarer and rarer to see those two give into their passion. I say let them have their moment." Ino giggled mischievously. "Are you saying Lee doesn't share his fiery passion of youthfulness in the bedroom?" While Shizuka blushed, Neji stuck up for his teammate's girlfriend. Not everyone has such little self-restraint or the desire for children already. His tone was jovial and joking, but it got mixed reactions. Tamari pulled Ino into her. Well, we may not have planned for it, but baby Hashi is one of the greatest blessings on our family. Tamari glanced to Samui, Arashir as well. Samui snuggled into the girly hug. And you would struggle with your self-restraint if you were with someone so gifted. Samui said as coolly as she could while fighting off a nosebleed. While the guys were jealous and evaluating their own gifts, Sakura replied, you never shared how gifted. Samui began spreading her fingers apart while Ino made a O with her fingers to represent the girth. As Samui surpassed 8 inches, the guys' heads fell and the girls that were listening in blew back with blood trickling from their noses and steam erupting from their ears. It is true, Gaara said monotonously as he caught a passed-out Hinata. I am no longer ashamed to admit it. He is gifted. While the rookies were distracted, Guy had unleashed some of the techniques that were unique to Guy's inner gates. Kurama managed to escape the primary lotus and he took some damage from the reverse lotus, but he was able to tag out to Naruto as Guy was recovering from the recoil of the reverse lotus. Naruto stepped onto a devastated training ground and sank into the hummingbird fist style as he saw Guy face him. He only had one shot at this, and it would depend on Guy's opening move. Guy was beginning to feel the strain of the fourth gate as Kurama had managed to escape. He needed to eliminate that opponent to equalize the field for his youthful student. Guy saw Naruto sink into the hummingbird fist stance, and he locked eyes with the most youthful Senju. The two disappeared in a blur and crackle of chakra before a clash resounded in the middle of the training area. Through the power gifted by the fourth gate, Guy felt the bones of his left fist shatter as Naruto countered with an elbow reinforced by a blunted Mokuden plate. He pushed through the pain and continued his combo as his right hook impacted on Naruto's cheek. The young Senju wasn't ready, and he tumbled through the training ground and impacted unceremoniously onto the barrier. Guy darted forward and jumped into the air before spinning like a buzzsaw and calling out, Konoha falling leaf kick. A Mokuden clone substituted with Naruto when it saw its creator in danger and splinters of its former body scattered around the training ground like shrapnel from a hand grenade. Naruto emerged from the ground where his clone had remained hidden and took Guy's back. He took a move from the wreckage before encasing his body in his medium Mokuden armor and latching both arms around Guy's chest. The green beast of Konoha was supremely surprised when Naruto exploded upwards and guided that momentum backwards and back down to the ground. Then, his world went dark when his head impacted the ground hard enough to forcefully close the gate of opening, which disrupted the rest of the 8 inner gates. Naruto walked out of the crater that was nearly 100 feet in diameter and he appeared carrying Guy's unconscious form through the dust hanging in the air. He looked towards Lee and smirked, but Kurama distracted him. Oi, Ruto. Guy was mine. Kurama barked. Naruto looked back and gave a playful shrug towards his partner. Sorry, Q. I kinda got carried away by the moment and I really wanted to try Uncle I's move. Unfortunately for our blonde hero, this brief exchange distracted him from the immense buildup of chakra and Lee connected with a leaf whirlwind, spinning kick to Naruto's face. The student caught his master before he could fall as Naruto was sent sailing into the barrier. Everyone winced when Naruto collided with the barrier face first and slid down the barrier with his cheek leaving a trail of blood on the chakra surface. Kurama chuckled as he shook out his shoulders and launched himself into the training ground. His partner could be such a knucklehead at times. The rookies winced when Lee connected a full-blown leaf whirlwind to Naruto, and they winced once more when Naruto collided face first with the barrier. The girls were simply shaking their heads in resignation. Their lover could be so scatterbrained and distractible at times. Sasuke and the previous team hubby were sweat-dropping while the Konoha shinobi watching were all talking animatedly. There were many utterances about what just happened in the fight. To think that guy could actually be knocked unconscious. That was one of the Raikage's signature moves. Did he really just get distracted in the middle of a fight? I think he took the fall to let Lord Kurama have fun. Ooh, I feel sorry for Lee, that looked like it hurt. Oh my Kami, remind me not to piss Lord Kurama off. How is he getting back up? Oof. Just stay down, kid. That is something you don't see every day. Who the hell gave Lee alcohol? 1010's shrill voice rippled through the barrier. Hick. Oof. Holy shit, that is amazing. My first time seeing a drunken fist user. Lord Kurama is pissed now. Hick. Off. It's over. Did Lord Kurama really just use that jutsu? I thought only Kakashi used that jutsu. That would definitely sober me up. Winner, Kurama and Naruto Senju. Itachi announced as he appeared in the middle of the training ground next to Kurama. Tsunade and her medics ran over to Naruto, Guy and Lee. While they healed them, the crowds began scattering while talking animatedly about the intense fight they just witnessed. The Genin thought that was the craziest shinobi fight ever. The Chunin wished they could reach that level but knew that those guys were just playing with one another. The Jonin were resolved to train a bit more if Naruto's CrossFit could allow them to reach that level. The Anbu commander was downtrodden because he didn't have any Anbu that could fight at that level. Then, he lifted with a determined look hidden behind his mask and resolved to up Anbu's daily training. I can't believe Lee broke out the drunken fist. Neji said while shaking his head. Well, it caught Kurama off guard. I have never seen him take that many hits in a fight. Rias chirped merrily. Well, that kid was more elusive than the hubby style. It was like his instincts just made him dodge and counterattack everything. Enko added. Kiba shivered. I still remember the ass whooping he gave all of us when we accidentally let him have alcohol during your training trip. Ino's head snapped to the nearest source of hot gossip. Okay, how did that go? $5,000 damage to Ichiraku's, a 1-month ban, 6 rookies and 2 Anbu squads in the hospital, and it took guys showing up to deal with Lee. Shino said in a monotone laced with fear of the memory. Choji rubbed his cheek where Lee knocked him unconscious that night. It was so terrible, there was still so much food and drink on the table. It was sent flying and we were kicked out before we could eat it all. It was so damn troublesome. Shikamaru said while groaning. Yeah, well, now we know how to wake Lee up from that drunken effect. Kiba said while Akamaru whined. The pup thought that the Senin Garashi, or the 1,000 Years of Death, jutsu was a forbidden jutsu. No way. No way am I doing that to Lee. Sakura screeched while animatedly shaking out her hands. Whatever, where are we going to eat? Tamari asked the group. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and I'll catch you in the next part.